Alrighty, welcome back to another thrilling installment. That's the wrong button. Of Wordy Wednesdays. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fraggeth, and today we're going to keep reading some more of Bear v. Shark, the novel, by Chris Bachelder. I do not think that I'm realistically going to be able to get through the entire rest of the book, though that was kind of the plan. Mostly because my energy is now a depleted resource, because I got a COVID booster and it is given me a wallop. More than I had experienced previously. Let's see. That's about half of it. Let me mark that aside. We'll see how we're doing when we get there. If it's only been like an hour and I'm feeling good, then we will carry on and see if we can plow through the rest so I can start on literally anything else. Oh, actually, that's right. The book is substantially shorter than it appears because there's like, I don't know, 10 pages of blank pages in the back here. So this may actually be more doable than I thought. I don't know why that is. It seems like an odd. What does that come to? 251. It'll only be like 260. I don't know if there's a publisher thing there. I don't know. Anyway, where's my backup bookmark here? Here we go. So, previously on, let's see. Quite a lot happened in terms of actual plot. Mr. Norman keeps running into people who are telling him, you know, hey, things can be better. You can do things differently. Life can be more fulfilling than this. He's run into a group of people who are totally not going to be bombing the Bear v. Shark 2 venue in Las Vegas, which he just kind of bounced off of him. And the last we saw them, he had performed a pretty abrupt U-turn for no apparent reason. Although if you were paying attention, you know the reason. Very close attention, I should say, to 2 chapters prior. Oh yeah, and there was like a convenience store robbery, a food mart robbery, in which Curtis, the boy who wrote the winning essay that's getting them to see Bear v. Shark 2 in Vegas, which again is a sovereign nation now. It's seceded from the Union, I guess. He got grazed by a bullet, and this threw him a little. But he and his dad had a brief little heart-to-heart moment, which was nice. But then they were on their way, and now they're going on a U-turn for some reason. Don't really know why. Let's find out. Also, a quick shout out to whoever posted this image of a signed copy of Bear v. Shark, signed by Chris Bachelder. I found that randomly on the internet, so thank you to whoever posts pictures of their stuff on the internet that I have now effectively stolen. Thank you. And now this, Part 2, Misunderstandings and Their Remedies. Chapter 70. The Ghost of the American Vacation.
Hi, folks, and welcome back to another episode of American Vacation. I'm Walt West, and next to me here in the studio and providing color commentary for our broadcast this weekend is Chris Blackletter. How'd I do on the name, Chris? Not too bad, Walt. Welcome, Chris, and thanks for filling in on such short notice. I'm happy to be here. Now, Chris, it says here you have a PhD in English from a mid-tier school. Well, I finished my coursework, Walt. So you don't actually have a PhD? Not technically. What did you study? Rhetoric. And tell the folks at home a little about rhetoric. I'm afraid I'm not really very clear on that, after all those books. A field of study at the nexus between language and reality. They still haven't found that nexus, Walt. They've given up trying. Damn holy grail. Everything is language. That's what they say. So rhetoric is the study of everything. It appears that way. So it's really not the study of anything, then, is it? It doesn't look like it, no. But you do have a master's degree in English? Yes. And that is also from a mid-tier school? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So, Chris, what do you like to do when you're not, well, what do you like to do? I read a lot. I should hope so. And I've done some work in the catering business, of course, which is how you discovered me. Yeah, nice spread here, by the way. Melon balls, spinach, dip, wavy carrots. We try to interact with both you and the food. These are good, these bamboo steamed tofu dumplings. And what's that? That's an artichoke display. Do you eat it, Chris? It's more of a decorative type thing. It's pretty. And I've freelanced some. I did a piece on cosmetic surgery for this women's business magazine in central North Carolina. That one got past me, I'm afraid. My editor seemed to like it. I bet he did. She. She. Say, Chris, you're not a communist, are you? Well, I'd rather not. Ha! Just a joke. You're not on trial here, friend. Okay. Say, if this works out, maybe you can come back and do some more broadcasts this season. That would be neat, Walt. Think the boss would let us borrow you again? Maybe. Your big break, huh? Yeah, just lucky for me that Thomas Pynchon couldn't make it. And David Foster Wallace, Donald Antrim, Laurie Moore. Walt, don't forget Rick Moody. Oh, yes, he would have been good. And George Saunders. Okay, so Chris has peed in the cup. It's all official. He's clean as a whistle, and we're ready to get started. It looks as if the Normans will hit Las Vegas in 10 or 15 minutes. Funny how they say clean as a whistle. Your basic whistle has been in people's mouths. Seems like there would be a lot of germs and bugs and stuff on it. Hey now, that was a colorful thing you just said, Kirk. Fricky frack, who needs Pinchon? Whoa, this is a family show, friend. Gotcha. Chris, I know you've done your homework. What are the keys to a successful family vacation this weekend for the Normans? Well, looking at the children first, Matthew is solid. He's not going to cause many problems. He's surly and jaded, yes. Languid, probably depressive, but he's obedient, you know? But Calvin, it's Curtis. But with Curtis, you kind of have to keep an eye on him. He's a weird dude and kind of a mayhem magnet. Well put. The kid's probably got an FBI file. Most of his money laundering has been strictly computer gaming, but some of it, apparently, has been real. He tends to get shot. Yes. Mrs. Norman is worry-free from a viewer's standpoint. She is a great consumer, she's a patriot, she's family-oriented, she won't make waves. Somewhere deep in the back of her mind, she may have some reservations about taking her young children to see such gruesome violence, but she isn't about to let these reservations spoil all of the fun. She's excited about the big, bloody show, and she just wants to share those moments with her loved ones. And, Walt, I'm sure you've noticed, she's just a posture nut. I think probably vitamins are the key to longevity. It's like whatever happened to the folic acid craze? Here and gone. Chip, what about Mr. Norman? Walt, Mr. Norman is the wild card here. I think he's the one to watch. A real loose cannon. Yes. A time bomb, huh? He's been behaving erratically. He's disoriented, exhausted. He daydreams, he babbles. He is nagged by something he cannot name. He doesn't feel connected to anything or anyone. He's lonely, Walt. Lonely. He occasionally wonders if this culture has anything of meaning to offer, which is sad. Very. Because here's a guy who has tickets to what has been called by some the greatest spectacle in all of recorded history. Bigger than Lincoln Douglas? Do you know what people would do for those tickets? I've heard some of the things, yes. This Mr. Norman, he's got a job, a family, a sport utility vehicle. He's headed to a country with the best entertainment to entertainee ratio in the free world. Entertainer to entertainee ratio, sorry. It's guys like him that really get me, you know? I mean, what more can this guy want? I'd say maybe he wants a little less. Any chance you'll finish that PhD, Chris? Doubtful. Rhetoric is the art of using the available means of persuasion in any given case. Aristotle. What I shall urge is that rhetoric should be a study of misunderstandings and their remedies. Yeah, I.A. Richards. That's a good one. The Handmaiden to Philosophy. You'll get calls and letters on that one. So, Mr. Norman is the key. Yeah, he's very unpredictable right now. I just feel like he is capable of anything. Or nothing, maybe. But I guess that's why folks tune in. Actually, Carl, our research indicates that folks tune in to see average American families enjoying American-style vacations in entertaining pleasure spots. Okay. And this episode is special because although we're not allowed to broadcast Bear v. Shark, we can broadcast an American family watching Bear v. Shark. And for many Americans, this will be as close to the action as they can get. Did you know, Walt, that my brother-in-law invented Bear v. Shark? Hey, good one, so did mine. No, really. It's difficult, Chris, to overestimate the importance of this event to the American public. No argument there, Walt. It's a democratizing force. So I've heard. With the internet, everyone with an opinion can have their say and be heard. The poorest squirrel eater out there in the sticks, provided he has a decent internet provider, can set up his web page right alongside the rich kid in the suburbs. Technology and entertainment have leveled class distinctions and created a pure form of democracy. Well, I mean, what are the chances 100 years ago that these people living out in the wilderness would have ever even heard of bears and sharks? And now they're out there e-gambling, taking part in opinion polls, and taking fins and claws on chat lines. It's staggering how far we've come. I'm thinking town meeting here, Walt. Exactly, yes. A town meeting called in a global village to discuss who would win in a fight between two large and fearsome creatures. Fake creatures. Well, Chris, fake only in the sense that they are not real. Granted. It's palpably galvanizing. Indeed. Founding fathers. Yes. Citizenship. Okay. And rhetoric, my friend. In this kind of radically democratic political environment, expertise in rhetoric becomes vital, does it not? Vital, Walt. If Joe Sixpack wants to put his hard-earned money down on either the bear or the shark, he has to be expert in evaluating truth claims and logical coherence. Are you beginning to see now why I was galvanized, palpably even, to read this book? Maybe a smidge, given current events when this was being read out? You're talking here of gambling? Chris, how do you see the bout? I'm a shark guy, Walt. I was a shark guy way back when it was just a North Carolina parlor game, and I'm still a shark guy. In fact, I've never really understood all the fuss, but I know that there are really smart people who think the bear has the edge. Yes, as you know, the question does not correlate strongly with education level. But people in seafaring industries are much more likely to believe the shark will win, and I put some stock in that. Some of these fellows are one-legged, if you catch my drift, Walt. But the same could be said about folks in the West, the forest rangers and such who rioted after Bear v. Shark won. They're bear people out there. They've seen bears. They know what bears can do. These people have beards and flannel shirts, and they wear the right boots for the job. Walt, I never really understood how they rioted in the forest. Overturned trees, looted eagles' nests, that sort of thing. A civil disobedience situation? Yes, trashing the forest in the spirit of Thoreau and MLK. What did that prove, Walt? It proved that they had strong feelings about something. Rioting is an American tradition. We're a people who riot when we are mad or sad or happy. It was just unfortunate in this case because there were no cameras to capture the spontaneous outburst of feeling. All we have to go on is the rioters' testimony on their websites, which are very moving. Rhetorically savvy. Hey, Walt, if a rioter overturns a tree in the forest and nobody. Never mind. Your prediction, Clint? I like the shark in 3 rounds. It's going to go longer than the first time, provided they've worked out all the kinks, head size and what have you, but it won't go the distance. There you have it. I'm Walt West, this is Chris Bandleader, and you're watching American Vacation, folks. Say, Chris, did you know that a shark literally cannot swim backward? That's an urban myth. Hey, Chris, what do you get when you cross a bear and a shark? I give up. Mauled. Well, Walt, you know why the bear lost the first match, don't you? He stayed out late the night before looking for a little head. Okay, let's take a look at some of the emails we've gotten in the studio from viewers at home. Paul in Ohio writes, "Where's Pinchon? My internet cable listing said it was going to be Pinchon doing color. That guy with the cummerbund ain't Pinchon." Well, you can't please everyone, eh, Kevin? I guess not. People get sick. It happens. Okay, Jennifer in New Jersey writes, "I love American Vacation. It's way better than American Style Journey and A Family Trip Situation. Keep up the good work." Hey, thanks, Jennifer. It's always nice to get positive feedback. Thanks, Jennifer. Nathan in Missouri writes, "Hey, whatever happened to Jell-O? It was so huge for a long time, and now it's difficult to find, and I can't find it. It used to jiggle." Well, keep looking, Nathan. We've got to take a break now. We'll be back. We'll be right back for more American Vacation. Don't touch that dial. Bad credit, no problem. And now all of a sudden Turner can't find the strike zone. This administration has clearly shown no interest in the peace talks. We just didn't play with any hunger, and they did. Her most recent album has soared up the charts. Why they say album? I don't know. Why they say don't touch that dial? Another round of successful missile strikes. Nobody has no dial. Human milk is fine for average children. That's what I'm saying. Serial rapist. Sleek design. There are guys wearing digital watches in Spartacus. Weren't no digital watches in toga times. We recently caught up with the busy little lady in Los Angeles, and here's what she had to say. That's the 7th spinal cord injury we've seen this season, Butch. A 5-year, $100 million deal. No word on civilian casualties. Last weekend at the box office, high winds. Bears can't run downhill. Damn it, Billy, you can't just have everything you want. Life doesn't work like that. Meanwhile, the drought continues. You slept with her, didn't you? How was she? Was it worth it? Do you have trouble keeping your food down? Hey, flip it back to my show. What were you watching? The only hot dog with vitamin C. American Vacation. The Lord wants you to make sound financial decisions. What channel? We're so confident that you'll be satisfied that we offer. The blood was actually running down the hill. I know you would think that the blood would soak into the earth, but what I'm saying is that the ground was so saturated with blood that it ran down the hill and covered our boots. Damn. 84, I think. Nobody likes soggy French fries. Shit, 83 then. If you just joined us, we've got some rather strange news to report. The Normans were just a few miles from the Las Vegas border when Mr. Norman turned the sport utility vehicle completely around. Total U-turn, Wes. Walt. I think you'll be able to see the SUV from our aerial cameras. Chris, could you circle it there with the telestrator? Like so? No, that's not it. That's a cactus. Sorry, I don't quite have the hang of this thing. Yes, that's the one. Right there. Once again, Mr. Norman has turned the four-wheel drive vehicle around and is heading away from Las Vegas. This is potentially very troubling news, but we don't want to jump to any conclusions. Perhaps they just left some keys or a pair of glasses at a food mart somewhere back there. I don't think so, Walt.
What?
I think it's more serious than that.
But look at how slowly he's driving. Surely if he was trying to make a getaway, he would be driving fast, with abandon.
Not necessarily.
Explain. Now's your chance to show your stuff.
Mr. Norman, he's driving. He's driving through the slow falling dark of the desert, away from Las Vegas.
This much is clear from our aerial pictures.
Las Vegas, Walt. Feathered showgirls, relentless entertainment, gambling in windowless, timeless, placeless mazes where the polychrome flicker and the free drinks and the clatter of impartial machines assaults you first, then begins to seep into you like Novocaine. It's like the outside world, except louder, more.
Hey, now, you got a speech for every city?
There are pictures of winners on the walls, with blank spaces reserved for you. Your bloodshot eyes, your wan smile. Funny, winning doesn't feel much different than losing. It's all a rush.
A marvel of human engineering. The art and architecture of it.
Space designed to make you say over and over, okay, one more time.
It's brilliant, Cyrus.
Away from this place. He is driving away, and night is happening outside his windows, but deliberately. It is not something to be rushed. And maybe a coyote is howling somewhere, maybe a rattler is easing through the sand, maybe a scorpion scuttles into a cowboy's recumbent boot.
The boot, you say, is prostrate.
Help me out, Walt. Are there still scorpions?
Yes, some.
And cowboys?
No, but their boots remain.
And in the dying light, the stern silhouettes of cacti line the highway
Like dark people?
no, Walt, like guards, members of some moonlit militia whose duty is to keep you between the lines.
Foreboding.
And Mr. Norman is driving not recklessly, not feverishly, but slowly, contemplatively, well below the interstate limit. Imagine, Walt, the cool bank robber who bags his money and then walks out the side exit, his walk purposeful, not panicked.
An analogy, yes.
And Mr. Norman feels that high speed, even on this flat and straight and open road, might obliterate thought, might just blow it away. Mr. Norman imagines a critical velocity, not fixed, generational perhaps, at which the world rushes by too rapidly for reflection and conjecture.
Today's hectic world not conducive to careful consideration and judgment. Okay.
And so the white lines that have all day darted by like bullets or video game missiles or television news segments are now floating past like logs on a river.
Metaphor.
They're floating past, these white lines, at an almost unlawfully slow rate, Walt.
53 miles per hour. A thinking man's velocity.
And ahead of him, Mr. Norman sees the signs and billboards growing larger in discrete units, as if in a slideshow or ancient classroom film strip.
I remember those film strips. Demographic studies indicate that most of our viewing audience will understand that trope.
As if magnified to the next power at steady intervals.
Yes.
And behind him, through his rear-view mirror, Mr. Norman watches dim and distant vehicles become, through a continuous time-lapse sequence of growth and cell division, bright-eyed monsters of luxury that speed past in a silent roar.
Blastula. Zygote. Next slide.
In a matter of seconds, Walt, embryonic headlights grow to full-sized sedans, and then they are gone. This is the world behind him.
Just to catch everyone up to speed, Mr. Norman, just a few miles from the Las Vegas border, turned the sport utility vehicle around and is now heading away from the entertainment capital of the world. He's driving slowly, as you can see. Great work, as always, by our American Vacation camera crew in the Army choppers. I'm Walt West, and Oh, excuse me. I'm Walt West, and with me here in his bow tie and providing color commentary is Chris Bachelder, a member of the studio's catering team. He has a master's degree in English, some history of depression and vagrancy and mismanaged affections, but no criminal record, no drugs in his system. A flair, it seems, for the dramatic, perhaps not unlike our Mr. Norman.
I often have a hard time falling asleep.
We know.
As one car passes the Norman's SUV, a small child with a dome-light halo waves and smiles at Mr. Norman.
But, Chris, I don't see any cars currently passing the SUV.
By the time Mr. Norman raises his hand in return, the child and the car have vanished into the distant constellation of taillights.
Technically speaking, when does this become a hostage situation?
Mr. Norman loves his children, Walt. You know that, don't you? You do know that? At one time, this vacation sounded like a good idea. It's just.
Are we obligated to call in the National Guard at some point on behalf of the family? I'm thinking rubber bullets here.
He can see those kids in his rearview mirror.
I don't know, Chris. It's pretty dark.
Oh, maybe their dreams make more sense than the world they've been born into.
Those kids have it great, pal. When I was a kid, man, oh man.
The radio in the sport utility vehicle is on with the volume turned low. A woman is talking about a product. Mr. Norman cannot hear the words, but he recognizes the intonation of the cell. And maybe this is what it comes down to. Not content, but form. An Olympian's sleek body, a well-known actress's voice, a jingle, a striking use of color, a fade, a jump cut, a swish pan, sound effects, a nice ass, innovative text image placement. Not, Walt, buy this, but just buy. Buy, and we'll all win.
The invisible hand.
The billboards look silly at this speed. They look like a joke. Fake billboards, parodies of themselves. The colorful lies are rhetorically engineered for highway velocity, the quick hit. When you drive too slowly, when you consider the implicit syllogisms, having a fun lifestyle is fun, hernia soda leads to a fun lifestyle, and so on, then you are left to believe that advertising is an insult and an absurd waste of money. And also, you are left with some vague desire. What is it? An emptiness, a thirst. Yes, you are thirsty. Wouldn't a hernia soda hit the spot?
Wow, friend, I find that I'm feeling a little dry myself.
The Vibra Dream Plus, you must understand, is not female in any literal sense, though its ad campaign has targeted men by using breasts and legs and belly buttons to confuse sexual desire with the desire for comfort after a stressful workday. This kind of confusion happens all the time, Walt. It's good for business. Almost any kind of business.
I hadn't noticed.
The Vibra Dream Plus, which Mr. Norman wears like a collar, vibrates just audibly, but she does not ever actually say anything.
I understand. Mine never says a word, and that's how I like her.
And, Walt, there's his wife in the passenger seat, dozing fitfully.
Can we get a picture of her? There's a pretty decent shot. There's a pretty recent shot of the missus.
And Mr. Norman looks over at this person beside him, and he feels that certain tenderness you feel for the sleeping and for those whom you no longer love but with whom you share a history. After the rancor of or the silence, Walt, can come this hopeless tenderness.
That feels right to me.
And I'm not sure if Las Vegas is technically an independent nation or not, but I'm certain that the Normans have not slept together in months, perhaps a year, perhaps longer. The days just dart past like little tiny fish.
Calendar pages fluttering in the wind like in those old black and white movies.
Walt, you can leave the imagery and the sterno to me.
Because of this breaking news situation, folks, we're not going to cut away to commercial. Please know that the next 60 seconds of broadcast are brought to you by the good people at HardCorp. HardCorp, making life more real for over 30 years.
And even though the desert night is cool, the air conditioner is on and the windows are rolled up in the sport utility vehicle.
We can confirm that, I think.
And in his slightly convex driver's side window, Mr. Norman can see himself, his reflection, by the eerie lights of the high-tech dashboard. It is true that the dashboard is remarkable for the amount of information it conveys. His image is tilted and floating like an astronaut or a ghost in the blackening sky above the driver's seat. Hard corp, bears, sharks, and so much more. There I am, Mr. Norman thinks. There I am, haunting my own journey. The ghost of the American vacation. Mr. Norman has increased his speed a bit, but he's well under the limit. I still don't think we've hit a panic situation here. I'm holding out for the possibility of a simpler, less dramatic interpretation. Not that you haven't been persuasive, if a bit gloomy. Everything I just said, and most of what Clem said about ghosts, was brought to you by cereal on a stick. Cereal on a stick, because who has time for hot cereal or cold cereal or a cereal bar? Cereal on a stick, because oatmeal is for giant losers. That's the spirit, Chris. So Occam's razor is what you're saying, Walt. I'm just saying maybe you read too much. You'll see. This isn't about misplaced keys or electronic games. This is about crisis. This is about the human struggle for meaning. This is about a turning point, an awakening. This is about enough is enough. Off in the distance. Can we get a better shot of that? Off in the distance, I think. Yes, great work, guys. There in the distance, you can make out the blue-gray glimmer of Teletown. Yes, indeed. Now, Chris, you don't think. That is precisely what I think. But why Teletown? That's hardly an escape. Maybe, just maybe, Teletown is not what it seems. Chris Bachelder is being brought to you today by Chief Executive Orange Juice, the orange juice for the top 1%. CEO J is not responsible for the opinions expressed in this broadcast. Not at all what it seems. Maybe the million televisions are a front. Maybe the million televisions are not watched. Chris, you obviously have never tried to not watch a television that's on. Maybe Mr. Norman is cutting the old Guardian knot. It's Gordian. Maybe the people have come together there in Teletown for a reason. Maybe they've come together to live a different kind of life. In Teletown, they share the work. In Teletown, there is no money. In Teletown, they farm and the work keeps them strong and healthy. In Teletown, they read books and get together to talk about them. A utopian community. Call it what you want. A bunch of robot zombies. Death of the individual. In Teletown, nobody cares about fashion. Nobody cares about accumulating stuff. Nobody lives better than anyone else. They cook and bake, play instruments, write, paint, put on plays. It's a thriving artistic community. No motivation to succeed. Malaise, then bloodshed. The old Dutch decline. If you just joined us, the Normans are fleeing fun. In Teletown, the Normans can perhaps remake their lives and reestablish their familial relationships. They can cultivate real friendships. You know, there was one Christmas a long time ago when Mr. and Mrs. Norman made each other gifts. It was a little rule they had, and the gifts were pretty good, too, and they meant a lot. Why did they stop doing that? Any republication, rebroadcast, or retransmission of the events, images, or descriptions of this telecast without express written consent of American Vacation is strictly prohibited. I'm not saying it's perfect in Teletown. These are humans we're talking about. There are arguments about how things are, how things should be, but there is a basic shared commitment to justice and fairness. I think that guy over there needs your bottle opener. Teletown, Walt. Teletown. Chris, what do you think the rest of the Norman family is doing in that vehicle? Surely someone would have woken up and noticed the change in direction. There is confusion and anger. You have to expect this. The boys, especially Curtis, are upset. Mrs. Norman doesn't want to take sides, but she wishes Mr. Norman hadn't turned around. She says, "Honey?" She says, "Maybe we should talk about this." Curtis says, "I hate your guts, Dad." He says, "You're ruining my life." And maybe Matthew says, "Shit, it's not like the cookies are even that good." There are certain words, from a family-style perspective. Curtis says, "Let me out of this car. I hate you. You're a bastard fucker." It's those kinds of words. This stings, of course, but Mr. Norman keeps driving. "You'll see," he says. "I promise it will be better where we're going. I promise." Mrs. Norman maybe cries quietly. She is torn. She wants to believe him, but it's true he's been acting strangely.
Interesting, but all speculative, of course.
No, it's true, Walt.
Whoa, what's that up ahead in the median? Can we get a closer shot of that?
It will be difficult for the Normans. It's never an easy transition.
Is that a. It looks like it may be a person.
It's happened before. A family comes to Teletown and they can't all adjust. It's hard work.
Up ahead in the median. There. It's a person. A very small person. Looks like a child.
Imagine trying to wean people of television in a community full of televisions. It doesn't always work. People come and then leave. Sometimes families even split up.
It is a child boy walking down the median in the direction of the Norman's vehicle. The sport utility vehicle is about a half mile from the child and it is slowing down. Now, what do you make of this, Chris?
In Teletown, Mr. Norman will be reborn. He will start to feel again. He's been numb for years. He will cry and laugh. He will discover that he has talents he never knew about.
Is that Curtis Norman?
He will have very few possessions. He will feel light.
My word, that is Curtis Norman in the median. How about that? The sport utility vehicle is slowing on the interstate, and now it is pulling over into the median. It has come to a stop. How did they manage to leave that kid behind?
I just don't know if Mr. Norman's wife and his 2 children will be ready for the change. You have to be ready. Maybe they will leave immediately to make it back to Vegas for Bear v. Shark. Maybe they will stay a week, a month, a year. Maybe they will adjust, but it is more likely that they will not. They will miss their internet and their violent movies. Mr. Norman will have to make a choice. Will he remain in Teletown, or will he leave with his family?
Curtis has now climbed into the sport utility vehicle. Well, I guess you were right, Clyde. It wasn't about misplaced keys or video games.
And Mr. Norman wandering the clean dirt paths of Teletown. He has an awful choice to make. It's after midnight. The blue-gray fog is thick, and it is a reminder of his former life. Entertainment exhaust. Beautiful, but of no substance.
Mr. Norman is turning the vehicle around in the median. It looks like. Yes, he's turning the sport utility vehicle around once more. The Normans are back on the interstate, heading toward Las Vegas. They're picking up speed. They're really moving. Wow, what a strange turn of events, so to speak.
A lone man down in a canyon, wandering the dusty makeshift roads as interstate travelers rush past overhead. Through the blue-gray haze, he sees the flashing white lights of nighttime photographers. Everyone wants a shot of the TV ghetto, the scenic bivouac. He never drives a car anymore, and he has grown to hate the speed and swoosh up above. If he gets back on that interstate, Walt, he feels that he will be destroyed.
Chris,
He doesn't want to go back where it leads. It's no place for living up there. His immune system could no longer handle such sweetness, such loudness, such brightness. The quick images would crush him and break his heart 100 times a day. The endless chatter would be a mosquito in his ear all day and all night. And yet, who can just send away a family? He loves those boys. He.
Chris, hate to cut you off there, pal, but some of that stuff was pretty good, but the situation is over. The family disaster has been averted.
What?
Norman's heading back to Vegas. Cruise control, 76 miles per hour. Folks, the little Norman boy in the median was brought to you by Green Paint.
But the life ahead?
Bear v. Shark, an exciting weekend of broadcasting.
It can't be.
Take a look for yourself. Monitor 3 over there.
Ah, Jesus.
And when you get a chance, the boys in production would love some more of those little chicken fingers.
And now this, Part 3, Las Vegas. Chapter 71, The Brutal Engine of History. Just about 20 hours until Bear v. Shark 2. Red in tooth and claw. Natural enemies square off in the Darwin Dome. Lungs v. Gills in the Neon Desert for all the marbles. Realer than life. Shark and bear collide in dog-eat-dog world. Witness the brutal engine of history in state-of-the-art comfort. Flight is not an option. Raw instinct in incredible three-dimensional projection. The struggle for existence inevitably follows from the high geometrical ratio of increase which is common to all organic beings. The bear is back, and this time his head won't be so small. This ain't personal, it's genetic. The flag may be at half-mast, but the action will be full tilt. Savage, bone-crushing fun for the entire family. Chapter 72, At the Border. The Normans are stopped at the Las Vegas border. Routine check. The country's distant skyline looks bright and fun. Why are you coming to Las Vegas? To witness history. How long will you be staying here? Just until Sunday. Mind if we have a look in the vehicle? No. Hey, is that Curtis Norman in the back seat? Yes. Hi, Curtis. Hi. How are you feeling? Fine. The border station is lit up brighter than day. Choppers fly overhead. Minimum wagers hang from wires and announce hotel specials with bullhorns. A border official says, "Sorry for the inconvenience, but we need to search everybody coming in this weekend. You wouldn't believe how many people have it in mind to blow up the dome." Mrs. Norman says, "That's just awful." The border official says, "It just seems like these days, whenever you have people getting together to have a good time, you can bet there's somebody out there who wants to detonate the fun." The Normans step out of the vehicle. A border guard approaches Mr. Norman and asks him to come fill out some paperwork in his car. He, the guard, has a cool uniform, better than normal cops in America. Mr. Norman says, "Paperwork?" The border guard says, "Yes, just some routine documents." His eyes look weird, and Mr. Norman thinks perhaps he is not telling the truth. Maybe this is a trap. The guard is wearing a hat with a long feather in it. Mr. Norman can picture his tiny Las Vegas prison cell. 2 meals a day. Cabbage. Lots of cabbage. Tepid water. Bread so hard it hurts to chew. A small bed in the corner with a caved-in mattress, a rust-stained sink, a toilet. The days like a long picket fence scratched into the wall. Stack of paperbacks by the bed, some notebooks. He would write in the notebooks. He would fill them up with something. His thoughts. Surely, if he were in prison, he'd have some thoughts. About life on the inside. Life on the outside. Body shackled but mind free. Scent upriver. The hooskow. The sky says, "Indoor pool, kitchenettes, free movie channels." Neil Postman says, "Today we must look to Las Vegas as a metaphor of our national character and aspiration." Mr. Norman accompanies the border guard to the patrol car. It's an El Camino. They get in, and the border guard offers Mr. Norman a cigarette. Mr. Norman declines, but then immediately thinks about how important cigarettes will be in the clink. The slammer. The border guard blows smoke out the window. He says, "Sir, I overheard you saying that you're going to the show tomorrow night." "Oh, sir, I overheard you saying that you are going to the show tomorrow night." His accent doesn't sound that much different from the folks in the mainland. Line by line, Mr. Norman would fill up those notebooks using pencils sharpened with a contraband pocket-knife. And oh, the conjurer visits. Don't think he doesn't know what goes on. The border guard says, I speak to you now, sir, not as an officer of the law, but with the authority to arrest and shoot people, but as a man, as a father. Father to father. They provide your uniforms. You don't have to keep track of keys or remote controls or lost children. You could just sit there in that cell and really think and live. Hundreds of push-ups a day to build up the chest and arms. The border guard says, Sir, I have a little crippled boy at home that I raise all by myself. My wife has expired. Mr. Norman cannot think of a single crime that he can confess. He's done nothing wrong. He's clean, heartbreakingly clean. He pissed the pool at the Plugged Inn. Big deal. There are no bombs in the sport utility vehicle. Not one single bomb. Overhead, the humming sky says, King-sized beds, children under 10 eat free. A banner says, Las Vegas, all the fun of America with none of the news. The border guard's hat feather is pressed flat and pretty against the red ceiling of the El Camino. He says, Doctors say my crippled boy may have about a year or two left. That's all. Now, sir, do you know what my son, Reggie's his name, do you know what Reggie wants more than anything else in this world? Mr. Norman says, To live? The border guard blows smoke. He says, Well, that goes without saying. Mr. Norman says, To walk? The border guard says, More than anything else in the world, he wants to go to Bear v. Shark. Mr. Norman looks wistfully at the border guard's handcuffs. The sky says, Free shuttle service to the dome. The border guard says, Now I am prepared to make you a generous offer for 2 tickets. The border guard pulls a pen from his cape and writes a figure on a scrap of paper. He hands Mr. Norman the scrap. Mr. Norman holds the scrap up to the window. Generous indeed. We're talking about an addition to the house or a couple semesters of college for one of the boys. Mr. Norman looks over at his vehicle, which is now parked on Las Vegas soil. It's not soil, really, more like astroturf, brilliant green stubble under the lights. Border officials are searching the sport utility vehicle. They won't find a damn thing. Mrs. Norman stands to the side, working on an electronic quilt. The boys are running on the turf, throwing rocks at each other. They are shouting, keeping score. It's some type of bear-shark spin-off game. The rules seem simple enough. God, or a dangling teen, says, Slots in your room! Mr. Norman turns back to the border guard. He says, Listen, I'd like to help you, but I can't. The border guard says, Rodney is crippled. Mr. Norman says, It's Reggie, and I'm sorry. Really I am. But I'm on a vacation with my family. Matthew says, 3-zip, bear lover. The border guard says, Reggie doesn't have long. It's all he wants. Mr. Norman opens his door and puts a leg out of the car. He says, There's always Payview. Curtis says, That one hit my neck. The border guard says, It's a sad fucking day when a little crippled boy with a month to live can't go to see a bear and a shark fight each other. Chapter 73. The Worst Kind of People. Most people will answer bear or shark very quickly and then proceed to provide reasons. You've heard most of these reasons by now. The fins, the teeth, the mammalian brain, the hibernation factor, energy fields, color blindness, eyeball rays, the shark tongue, etc. There are very few fence sitters, and there is very little apathy. And it's rare that someone takes time to consider the question and weigh the evidence. Seldom do people change their minds, though it's been known to happen. It seems to be a gut thing. The answer just feels right, and then you come up with reasons. But there are some people, and you know the type, who refuse to answer until they have, say it with me now, more information. They say things like, well, what kind of a shark are we talking about, and what kind of bear? They say, Hammerhead v. Grizzly is a whole different ballgame from Great White v. Polar, or Sand v. Brown, or Tiger v. Koala. And they say, and how deep is the water? Exactly. And is it fresh water or salt water? And, worst of all, why would they ever fight? They have different ecological niches and they don't share the same food supply. A bear's digestive system, blah, blah, blah. God, I hate these people. Matthew hates these people too. If you run into someone like this, just make your way quickly to a different part of the parlor. These are the people you have to look out for. These are the people who, well, it's like they're terrified that someone somewhere might be having fun. Chapter 74 Festive, Jubilant Atmosphere. 19 hours until Bear v. Shark 2. Actually, that's double Roman numeral 1, so that could be the second. I'm not sure. Much like the the Super Bowl. The lobby of the Norman's Hotel, and incidentally, the 19 hours is also Roman numerals XIX. The lobby of the Norman's Hotel looks even better in person than on the internet, except there are no exotically hued fish in the huge aquarium behind the front desk. Mrs. Norman says to the front desk person, "Where are the colorful fish?" The front desk person says, "They died." Mrs. Norman says, "Oh." The front desk person, who is wearing a sexy toga, says, "It happens." Mrs. Norman says, "Part of the life cycle." The front desk person says, "It happens every few months. These fish can't seem to survive in our tank for very long, so they die off and we just order new ones. People want to see the colorful ones." Mrs. Norman says, "Sure." The front desk person gives Mrs. Norman the keys and gives Curtis a t-shirt. Curtis says, "Thanks." Mrs. Norman says, "It could be Ich or Dropsy." The t-shirt says, "I won the Bear v. Shark essay contest and you didn't." Mr. Norman sits in the crowded lobby. There are crumbling columns and wax gladiators. Chariots race and slaves battle to the death for a fruit-eating emperor in a gigantic ceiling mural. Everyone looks familiar. Did he see them in Teletown? At a food mark in America? In the small television lounge of the Plugged Inn? Are they stars of comedies, either romantic or situation? Are they the vixens and cads of prime time that we love to hate? Is that his family over there at the front desk? There are supposed to be many stars in Vegas this weekend. Banners say, "Welcome Bear fans and Shark fans." Some guy whose t-shirt says, "Lindbergh is a lie," says, "Glad to see you here." Some other guy says, "I'll meet you later." In the corner of the lobby, two grown adults gallop violently on plexiglass horses in a horse racing video game. The loser says, "I got gypped." A crying person says, just can't believe I'm actually here. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it." A television reporter for an American station stares into a camera and says, "Here in the lobby of the Roman Colosseum there is a festive, jubilant atmosphere." A television in the corner says the same thing at the same time. The losing guy on the plexiglass horse leans back, out of breath. He says, "That fucking sucks." Mr. Norman asks a pretty woman for her autograph. The pretty woman smiles and says, "I don't think I'm who you think I am." Mr. Norman says, "Who are you?" The pretty woman says, "I'm just a pretty woman." Mr. Norman says, "That's who I thought you were." The pretty woman autographs a Food Mart receipt up against an automatic teller machine, ATM, shaped like a slave-eating lion. Someone says, I'm telling you, the shark looked puffy and pale. Mrs. Norman and the boys make their way through the crowd to Mr. Norman and the pretty woman. Mrs. Norman says to the pretty woman, "You look familiar." The front desk person says, "There are no fish are on order, sir. There's nothing we can do about it." The horse racing loser pushes the horse racing winner off his plexiglass horse. The winner falls and his elbow bends the wrong way. A banner says, "Las Vegas, America's younger, good-looking sister." Chapter 75, Bear v. Shark, The Logo. A woman in an office says, "The official logo for Bear v Shark 1, we felt, was all wrong. The shark was cartoony. You can see here the big toothy smile and the waving fin. I'm just not thinking ravined here. This image gives no sense of the shark's ability to make the sea boil with blood. And the bear? Well, take a look. Way too Soviet. A stern profile that expresses the animal's strength adequately, but really fails to capture the bear's natural charisma or its fun-loving disposition. Bears are in circuses, after all. They dance and ride tiny bicycles. The challenge, really, was to convey the split personalities of these beasts, and that's what our firm tried to do for the Bear v Shark 2 official logo. What we have here are two animals who are both a great deal of fun, and yet also are killing machines who rip meaty limbs from torsos. You want to scare kids, but you don't want to scare them too much, you know what I mean? It's got to say nature and Vegas. Moreover, if you want to make it, you want it to, moreover, you want to make it appear evenly matched. You don't want to make it seem like you are rooting for one over the other. This isn't so easy. I don't mind telling you that I'm really tickled at the way it came out. I think our artists did a fantastic job. And the colour scheme, the charcoal grey with the cadmium yellow, strikes me as the perfect way to represent these complicated and beautiful creatures. Chapter 76, Like the Dial of a Radio. A smooth, bright elevator, then a fluorescent corridor. The Normans walk through a long hallway on the 21st floor of the Roman Colosseum. Televised people on boxes within boxes laugh or cry convincingly, and the muffled sounds are a comfort to the road-weary family. Outside almost every door they hear a voice they recognize. Walking the hallway is like turning the dial of a radio. God, do you remember radio dials? Or like channel surfing in three-dimensional space. Ball game? Take about 10 steps back. A very funny and occasionally touching syndicated situation comedy about a group of cool friends who hang out together in a thick stew of sexual tension all the way to the end of the hall. The advertisements, the jingles, the catchwords, the 25% mores and 50% lesses, seep out into the hallway and infiltrate desire. Ever seen ants on something dying or dead? Is a dead mouse really still a mouse? It's been a long day, and it's late. Mrs. Norman's posture, frankly, just isn't what it was when she started this trip. Matthew says to Curtis, "By the way, what happened to you back there in America?" Curtis says, "I got up briefly with this cult." Matthew says, "What was the cult's belief system?" The hallway carpet says, "All roads lead to fun." Curtis says, "Essentially, they believe that the bear and the shark are like the Trinity. It's a complicated ideational grid." Matthew says, "Sounds stupid." Mrs. Norman says, "Matthew, beliefs cannot be right or wrong. We need to tolerate and respect all systems of thought, no matter how stupid or bankrupt they are." Curtis says, "I didn't quite catch all the nuances, but it turns out they want to blow up the dome." Matthew says, "Well, get in line." Oh, here we go. The hotel room doors say, It's Roman numerals because they're in the Roman Colosseum. Um, it's respectively 2112, 2114, 2116, 2118, but it's written out as MMCXII, MMCXIV, MMCXVI, MMCXVIII. So it's funny. It's cute. Never mind. Trays of half-eaten meals lie on the floor outside the doors. A televised person says, "I'm feeling like a bitch in heat." The audiences laugh. 1. The live studio audience before which the show was taped. 2. The lonely person locked inside the hotel room. 3. The children walking through the hall. Curtis says, "That's the one where Alex thinks he's in bed with Lola, but it's really David's mother." Matthew says, "That one's okay." Wow, I think that's the only positive thing he's said this entire time. The signs on all the doors say, "Do not disturb." Mr. Norman knows that you can be so damn tired and still not be able to fall asleep. The hotel hallway stretches on and on. Chapter 77. Some Common Freshwater Diseases. Just try to keep a real pretty fish healthy. There ain't no doubt doing it. Not hardy creatures. Turn sideways like that. Brilliant scales get all fuzzy and rotted. Among the 1,000 natural shocks are ammonia poisoning, black spot, corny bacteria, dropsy, fungal infection, velvet, ich, parasitic infestation. The symptoms of your ammonia poisoning include red or bleeding gills. Fish tend to get darker in color, and they gasp for air at the surface. Their very home is a poisonous cage. Can be prevented, but not cured. Avoid adding expensive fish to new tanks. Just makes sense, don't it? Start with cheap fish. Canaries in the coal mine. Splurge and get yourself an ammonia detoxifier. I think the symptoms of black spot go pretty much without saying. Tends to strike your silver dollars and your pariahs. Corny bacteria leads to a swollen head that will inevitably push the eyes outward. Pop 'em right out in some rare and severe cases. With dropsy, you can expect bulging sides and a stomach. Dropsy is not technically a disease. It's a symptom, a common one. With your fungal infections, keep on the lookout for a cotton-like substance on the fins and mouth. There are many fine commercially available products to cure velvet, a very common disease that has something to do with pustules. You want to handle ich? What can I say? Watch for the white pimply fins. Treatment of ich can be difficult. With your parasitic infestation, you got to lay hands on the colorful host in question. You got to physically remove the visible worms, flukes, or lice. Follow with commercially available treatments such as Aquatex Fluke Begone or Parasite Armageddon by Trident Laboratories. All this information is on the net. Or write for a transcript. Chapter 78. Bear v. Shark. The Cone. The question is absurd, as are most profound questions. Given a relatively level playing field, i.e., so that the water doesn't run off, enough water so. Wait, shit, how's it go? Something about dexterity. Okay, given a level body of water, not so much water that the bear has to breathe underwater, but not such a little bit that the shark would be just flailing around like a beached whale. With dexterity. Yes, with dexterity. Given this, and with the water perfect and everything, who would win if a shark and a bear got into a fight? A bear and a shark. Right, a bear and a shark. Who would win in a fight if they got in one? The question is apparently of ancient Eastern extraction. Yes, right, a cone, but also, except I heard it might not be that. I misread that. Yes, write a cone, but except also I heard it might not be that. It might be a cone. Chapter 79. Noble Gas. The hotel room is, well, nice. All expenses paid, too. And it's like the essay wasn't really all that well And it's like the essay wasn't really all that well written. Not bad, but not fantastic. Besides that, the part about the Dutch gardener was just simply fabricated. The Normans don't have a gardener, Dutch or otherwise. I can verify that. So it's a lie? So it's a lie. Bold-faced or bald-faced, is it? Little white? Transgression of poetic license. I don't know if this is one of those Greek chorus things, or if it isn't. It looks like it's structured like one of the Greek chorus things. This book is tricky. It plays games. So it's a lie. Bold-faced or bald-faced, is it? Little white? Transgression or poetic license? Should the Normans give their tickets back? That was a joke. The view from the window, particularly if you enjoy neon, is extraordinary. The Darwin Dome's stutter glows in the distance. The shower cap in the bathroom says, "One size fits most." Neon is a gaseous element occurring in small amounts in the Earth's atmosphere. It's all natural, is what I'm saying. Someone, probably a parent, says, "Tomorrow is a big day." This means it's time for bed, even though there are plenty of good television programs on. The televisions can stay on, it's not like they turn off, but let's turn the volume down a bit and let's try to sleep, okay? The televisions are here for you, sweethearts. They're not going anywhere. They'll be here when you wake up. Brush your teeth. That's it. You want to be well rested tomorrow night when the land meets the sea. Mr. Norman. He watches some Vegas television. It's anthropological work. What does this culture value? What is taboo here? What kind of people are considered important or worthy? Who has power? What is considered funny? Hell, it looks about the same as American-style programming. Maybe a little racier. We live in a melting pot. Cultural distinctions fade away, especially when there are no geographical boundaries. When Las Vegans refer to their homeland as the island of good times, they are, of course, speaking metaphorically. To the extent that cultural differences linger, we must respect and tolerate them. She, the Vibradream Plus, says, "You just might be the father of the year." Neon, Ne, comes from the Greek meaning new or recent. Neon, with helium, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon, is a noble gas. New and noble. What's not to like? Mr. Norman cannot sleep. His eyelids flutter open when he tries to close them. In his head, the words dart and collide like heated up electrons, protons, or whatever. He says, "If your neck isn't beautiful, then why even bother?" He says, "When life throws you a curve, make lemonade." Mrs. Norman is indeed lovely when she sleeps. Mr. Norman gets out of bed and gets dressed. Neon's atomic number is 10, and its atomic weight is 20.183. She, the pillow, says, "Where are you going? No, don't leave. Please don't. Nothing good can come of this." Another name for the noble gases is inert gases, inactive or sluggish by nature, unable to combine with anything else. Who knows? Maybe if Mr. Norman had tried a little harder, he could have fallen asleep. There's always what if. Mr. Norman quietly leaves the hotel room, and here's the thing. His youngest boy, Curtis, sees him leave and follows him. A little father-son outing. Chapter 80. Undercard. An electronic form letter mailed from Las Vegas officials to internet cult leaders and remnant folk singers says, Dear Zealots, if you are thinking of trying some funny business on August 18th here in Las Vegas, you may want to think again. First of all, security is tight at the border, on the streets, and in the dome. As of this early date, we have already apprehended many would-be terrorists. Those clever fertilizer artists, the ones still alive, are now eating cabbage and rotting away in a prison with a pretty severe TV to prisoner ratio. Ain't no summer camp, I'll tell you. Second, let me remind you that here in Las Vegas we don't share the same judicial values as your fair-minded mother country. We make no claims to due process, jury of one's peers, speedy trial, etc. We shoot on suspicion. We are prone to hysteria and vengeful thoughts. Extradition from Las Vegas to America tends to be a difficult process. Some of the boys here in law enforcement think that a public execution might be a nice undercard to the big bout in the dome. A double header. Let's play two. Here in LV, we don't care what you do out there in your sprawling nightmare of a nation. You don't bother us, we don't bother you. We're neutral. We're the damn Swiss of the desert. So go ahead and blow up whatever you want on your turf. Hell, it certainly can't hurt anything. But let's keep Las Vegas beautiful. Chapter 81. Wheel of Sin and Fun. Midnight, 18 hours until Bear v. Shark 2. Mr. Norman, down 21 floors, out on the street. It's all narcotics, hookers, and inert gas out here. Cops are rounding up homeless entertainers. Some of them, entertainers, are quite talented, just never caught a break. An entertainer bum says, "We've been out here for months." A cop hits him on the knee with a sequined club. He, the cop, says, "But we want our country to look nice on American television, don't we?" A large truck backs up slowly to a loading dock at the Roman Colosseum. Many of the colorful fish inside the truck already have pustules and swollen heads. Some are gasping for air. Their gills bleed in the dark, splashing water. Mr. Norman starts walking. He can't imagine that one direction is much different from any other direction. Curtis follows at a distance like a gumshoe. A private dick. It's like that computer game where you have to follow slouching agents of evil and then stab them with a poison umbrella before it's too late. An assisted living community explodes in the distance. A hooker says, "I love the babbling type." Another hooker says, "Inertia makes me hot." There are people everywhere, and cop cars, and lights, and vomit. Smutty handbills line the streets and sidewalks, marking zigzag paths to iniquitous places. These paths fan out in every direction like wavy spokes on a giant wheel. These paths, I just read that. A nation-sized wheel of sin and fun. Mr. Norman isn't looking where he's going, not looking for the action. He figures he will be found. He figures the action will come to him. He figures choosing a direction is like choosing a channel. Now you just sort of sit back and watch what happens. A hand on his shoulder, a whisper in his ear, the faint scent of fertilizer. Mr. Norman says, "What?" A voice says, "It's no way to live." A voice says, "Join us." A voice says, "The boy can come too." The throbbing sky says, "Free shower caps." Mr. Norman says, "What boy?" Curtis says, "Hi, Dad." Father and son duck furtively out of the street and into a hotel lobby. Once you stab the guy with the umbrella, you steal his dossier and double time it to the docks to get your next assignment. All right, so you remember many chapters ago, last week, last installment, where there was a questionnaire back, way back, way back. And it's a true false. Back in chapter 60, so you can go check that out. Um, there's a questionnaire there, and this is the appropriately named chapter 82, answer key. 1. False. The shark does in fact have a tongue known as a basihyal. Basihyal? I don't know how that's pronounced. It is spelled here Basihyal. I knew they had like a nubbin thing that they use. Basihyal. False. The shark does in fact have a tongue, known as a basihyal, although it does not much resemble the muscular, useful, and mobile slab in the human mouth or in the mouths of other non-fish vertebrates, such as the bear. The basihyal, a stout and stationary piece of cartilage, lies small and useless on the floor of the shark's mouth. 2. True. Some polar and Kodiak bears stand over 9 feet tall and weigh in at 1,600 pounds or more. These animals are the largest meat-eating creatures on land, and they can still run a lot faster than you. 3. False. Sharks have excellent vision and they see well at night. Shark corneas have even been transplanted into humans. Sharks also hear very well and have an excellent sense of smell. Also, did you know that sharks have a sixth sense? They can detect vibrations in the water with a special electroreceptive organ. 4. False. While it is true that most bears are omnivorous, the koala bear is not a bear at all, but a marsupial. 5. True. These pups are generally 40 to 50 centimeters at birth. 6. True. That's like eating 42 hamburgers a day. 7. True. While a 59-foot whale shark has been reported, most tend to be 25 to 30 feet. 8. Very false. Sharks go back over 400 million years. Bears go about 40 million. 9. False. Sharks, like almost all other fishes, have no auguring ability. 10. True. In Korea, a bear's gallbladder was once sold for $55,000. 11. False. On average, one human is killed every year in a shark attack. Most shark attacks are not fatal. Sharks don't much seem to like the taste of humans, who have a much lower fat content than the tasty seal. 12. True. The digestive system of hibernating bears is specially designed to process waste internally. Chapter 83. A Force for Cultural Cohesion. Mr. Norman, father, and Curtis, son, in a dark and crowded third-floor hotel room in Las Vegas. Middle of the night. Murmuring and plotting. Occult HQ. An overconfident cult member says, "Ha! I've seen better security in elementary schools." Mr. Norman says, "How did you follow me here?" From what Mr. Norman can make out, the members of this cult love and live for Bear v. Shark, and that is why they must destroy it with bombs. This makes sense, does it not? They prefer to be in a continuous and acute state of anticipation and desire. They love the speculation, the wagering, the talk radio. They love the chat sites and the swirling rumors and the merchandise. To honor Bear v. Shark and to love it purely is to defer it eternally, to place it forever out of reach. They must want and they must not get what they want. They must not, for what is on the other side? The Vice Squad leader in the hotel lobby says, "We hit 'em quick and we hit 'em hard." Listen, after Bear v. Shark won, there was widespread depression and anomie. Suicide rates went up. Spousal abuse rates and homicide rates went up. School dropout rates went up. It's like the whole damn country of America fell apart. What was left? Some boring war, some game shows, the Super Bowl. This cult in question, this cult that Mr. Norman and his young son have more or less joined for the moment, this cult sees itself as a positive force, a force for cultural cohesion and unity. The power of a well-made and well-placed bomb. Funny how you need to destroy to preserve, but you do. You need to blow something up to keep something much larger and more important intact. This is the truth. Can you argue with it? Curtis is struggling with this concept. You can see it in his young face. Delayed gratification is for adults and sickos. And eternally delayed gratification is an austere and ascetical code indeed. Struggle is not fun, nor is it particularly healthy. Boredom always looms. Does he, Curtis, love Bear v. Shark? Yes. Well then. But, my child, do you or do you not love Bear v. Shark? I do. Then you must not be selfish. Your place is with us. The Vice Squad leader is real, not televised. He says, "We knock. If they don't open up, then we're going in." It's dark in the room. One lamp on, in the corner, with a towel draped over it. Mr. Norman is not certain that he loves Bear v. Shark, but this feels right to him somehow. He wishes Curtis had not trailed him, but perhaps it will be a good thing after all. Things usually turn out okay. The cult members spread out a detailed map of the Darwin Dome on a king-sized bed. Certain key places are marked in red. One cult member in a dark corner says, "Those Lindberghers are total wackos." One cult member in another dark corner says, "So a panda, an American black, and an Asiatic black walk into a bar." The Vice Squad leader knocks on the door. The cult leader says, "Who is it?" Terrible falsetto. The Vice Squad leader says, "The maid." Better, but hardly convincing. A cult member in the corner says, "Then the panda says, gimme a rum and coke." The cult leader says, "Come back tomorrow." The Vice Squad breaks down the door and rushes into the room, looking every bit as well trained and proficient as your typical television Vice Squad. A gun says bang. Another gun says bang. Mortally wounded cultists and vice officers converse in a gargling pidgin of pain. Mr. Norman and his boy roll out onto the patio. Curtis hides behind a plastic chair. Mr. Norman climbs over the railing and then jumps 3 stories to the astroturf. He tries to roll upon impact like television leapers do. The turf burns his arms. Mr. Norman says, "Jump, Curtis." He says, "Jump, quick." He says, "I'll catch you." Curtis climbs on top of the thin railing and stands up. Bullets are whispering in the night. They fly over him, beside him, between his plump white legs. It's like this kid is invincible. And he's smiling, too. He's having fun. He loves his old man, Father of the Year. They're having a night on the town. Is he smiling, this boy on the balcony? Curtis says, "I can't do it." Mr. Norman says, "Jump, Curtis." Curtis says, "I'm scared." Mr. Norman says, "It's okay." Curtis jumps like a scuba diver jumps into the ocean, a shark hunter perhaps, fins first. And here's the thing. On his way down, he smashes the back of his head against the balcony's cement ledge, and he crumples, mid-air, and he falls limp into his father's waiting arms. An eyewitness, in town for the big show over at the Dome, says, "That was cool." Chapter 84. Shark's Tongue. I did okay, 7 out of 10. Me too.
But I feel like the shark's tongue question is controversial.
How so?
I feel like the question should either be thrown out, giving me 7 out of 9, or I should get credit for my answer, which would give me 8 of 10.
It's not that big a deal.
It's just the principle of the thing.
What principle are you invoking here specifically?
It's just a saying.
But still, there's some specific principle.
Principle of the thing. People say that all the time. It's the principle of the thing.
Sure, but there's still some principle they're talking about.
Well, fairness then. Justice.
Why is the tongue question unjust?
Can of worms here involving demarcation, definition, be in the thinking man's bonnet for all times.
What's a tongue, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, you start taking legs off a chair, when does it cease and desist being a chair?
At what point?
Likewise, you sit on a flat rock, is the rock now a chair?
Various schools of thought, natural kinds, and what not.
Does our language name reality, or does it bring reality into being?
But stubby cartilage in mouth floor is a tongue for realists and nominalists alike.
Not necessarily.
I got that one right, number one.
They don't even call it a tongue. They say, what, basiol. Basiol.
Your proposal would leave me with either 6 out of 9 or 6 out of 10. That sucks.
And also, this basiol doesn't move or anything. It just sits there, useless. Take a tongue out of my mouth and I'll miss it, you can be sure of that.
People live without tongues.
The word tongue has to point to something. A tongue has properties, location, and function. Not just any oral lump or knob can be a tongue. The word then loses any referential power whatsoever.
I find that I'm okay with the question as it stands. Chapter 85 30,000 Teeth 17 hours until Bear v. Shark 2, we got ourselves an injured child. These things usually turn out okay. What they do is build up the suspense and then show you a bunch of commercials, and then they come back and everything turns out okay, and there you were, worried for nothing. Or else, worst case scenario, they give you a cliffhanger and you have to wait, but then when you join them the following week, everything turns out okay. Triumph of the human spirit. A homeless entertainer in the street says,
"What that kid has is a fractured skull and swelling on the brain."
Another homeless entertainer, a fine pianist in his prime, says, "Now, what that child has is a bump on his noggin, no biggie." I looked it up. The internet says there are 250 species of sharks, and it also says there are 345 species of sharks, and also 400 species of sharks. Now, damn it, which one is it? Mr. Norman carrying Ragdoll Curtis along the streets of Las Vegas. Mr. Norman can't figure out if he feels, carrying his young boy in his arms, like a good father or a very bad father. Mostly bad. A drunk motorist says,
"Hey, did you win that kid at a gaming table?"
Another drunk motorist says,
"Hey, is that little boy sleepy or dead?"
The inert gas twinkles and shines. It's either beautiful out here on the street in Las Vegas, or else it's ugly. Horrid. Curtis says nothing, but he's still breathing. Let's be clear about that. An entertainer bum says,
"I saw where a shark's tooth is replaced every 8 days."
An arresting officer says,
Like clockwork or on average?"
The entertainer bum, his name is William, says,
"What this means is that given the average shark life expectancy of 20 to 25 years, some of your dogfish sharks live to be 100, but let's bracket them as a statistical outlier. What this means is that an average shark, goes through 30,000 teeth in a lifetime."
The arresting officer punches William in the ribs and says, "You're drunk and full of shit." William doubles over with his hands cuffed behind his back. He says, "I may be drunk," but it's hard to hear because he's gasping. The police commissioner says, "I can virtually guarantee you a bomb-free event." Spray-painted graffiti on the sidewalk says, "Pooh v. Jaws." Mr. Norman, breathing heavily by now, disappears into the lobby of the Roman Colosseum. Curtis is sleeping like a baby. William wheezes and says, 30,000, and that is the truth. And with that is where we say, hell with it, we're going to read the rest of the book. If I collapse in the middle of this, fantastic. We'll figure it out. You'll know or you won't. Chapter 86. Another essay that did not win. Lonesome BVS Blues number 3 by the last folk singer. I know drummers come and drummers go. I had just never seen one go that fast. I'm 3 lines into the first verse, and I think I hear a cymbal crash. That's SYMBOL. So I turn around and there's an empty kit where Stevie used to sit. Man, he's beaten his retreat. Got a front row seat at the Darwin Dome. Yeah, my drummer got snared. Ethan on bass starts falling behind. You know, the second verse is the same as the first. He's got those cartoon pinwheels in his eyes. He's thinking of the winner's purse. Wants to know who would win when the paw meets the fin. Stevie's stick's still in the air. When Ethan decides to meet him there in Vegas, hear that steady beat of 4 allegro feet. Now I got no rhythm, just the blues. So when I sing that bears and sharks are for the birds, man, it's not a chorus, it's just me. Yeah, it's not a chorus, it's just me. Martin's a pro on the piano, and he keeps his fingers on the keys. But by that third verse he's thinking, shit, why them and not me? Brenda's our backup singer, she joined the band last year. And maybe I should have known that the harmony would end right here. Martin and Brenda, they hit the road. Now she's singing jingles, he's typing code for the man. So when I sing that BVS is a bore, it's not a chorus, it's just me. No, it's not a chorus, it's just me. Well, we stumbled to the bridge, just me and brave Claudine. But halfway across she stopped me and threw down her tambourine. She sprinted stage left and said she hoped Martin could fix that bear's head once and for all. The fourth verse has a lonely sound. It howls like wind through a crack. The band has abandoned me and I'm getting bad feedback. Yeah, the band couldn't refrain. And I'm getting bad feedback. So when I sing that BVS is bull, hey, it's not a chorus, it's just me. And when I yell, you're all sheep, it's no chorus, it's just me, it's just me. Let me introduce the band. It's just me, it's just me, it's just me. Chapter 87. Cold Compress. Mr. Norman sneaks into the hotel room on the 21st floor. On television, things are either turning out okay, or else they are getting messed up so that they can later turn out okay. Oh, sorry. On television, things are either turning out okay, or they are getting messed up so that they can later turn out okay. Let's face it, an hour of okay would be boring, and an hour of messed up would be depressing. Mr. Norman undresses Curtis and tucks him into bed. It's been a long time since Mr. Norman has done this, and it makes him feel, well, good, and also bad, too. Matthew turns over in his sleep and says, "What?" Murray Jack Siskin says, "Look past the violence, Jack. There is a wonderful brimming spirit of innocence and fun." Mr. Norman wonders whether he should elevate Curtis's feet, or maybe his head. Something should get elevated. What the hell is a cold compress? Tourniquet, splint, triage. Mr. Norman gingerly removes the robot bounty hunter band-aid from Curtis's gunshot wound. Wow, what a day it's been. And, after cleaning the wound with a wet tissue, puts on a new band-aid. The wound is healing nicely. This makes him, Mr. Norman, feel better. Mr. Norman climbs into bed. Mrs. Norman sleeps while in her headphones a lady PhD chants spinal maxims. Drunk motorists honk their horns in the streets far below. Curtis is peaceful, the covers pulled up to his chin. You must keep the patient warm. Bump on the noggin. Mr. Norman sleeps, and in his restless dreams, there it is, Teletown, each television a pixel, a million pixels forming a beacon in the neon night. Chapter 88. Expert Testimony. Without ever leaving my Houston apartment, I was able to get in touch with biological experts throughout the world. I didn't want just any old PhD out there. First, I wanted animal people, not plant people. Second, I wanted vertebrate people. Lastly, I wanted them to be smiling in their website photographs. I should add that I was also seeking good geographical distribution in terms of forest experts v. sea experts. When I found experts out there on the internet who met all of these requirements, I sent them electronic mail messages, asking who would win in a fight between a bear and a shark, given a relatively level playing field, etc. When your sink is broken, don't you call a plumber? So I interviewed some experts. At least I think they're experts. Remember Curtis's good point in Chapter 30 about credibility and ethos? I mean, how do I really know these people have their PhDs in the biological sciences? Perhaps they just have PhDs in rhetoric. Perhaps they've just finished their coursework. Perhaps they've never even taken any coursework. Perhaps they're plumbers who read a lot, or, far worse, plumbers who don't read much at all. What is it that makes me believe, for I do believe, that these internet people are legitimate experts? Furthermore, do you believe these people are experts? Do you trust their word and mine? Or maybe you believe that I believe them, but you don't believe in them. Oh, sorry. Or maybe you believe that I believe them, but you don't believe them, in which case you trust my word, but not my powers of discernment. Or maybe you, like my brother-in-law, a developer of modern-day cone, really, think that I phrased the question poorly. See Chapter 10, and thus elicited slanted responses. Or maybe you believe that there are indeed internet experts of all kinds out there, but that I did not really find and contact them, in which case you don't trust my word. You believe that I made up the experts and their commentary, below, just as you believe that I've made up so many of the things in this book, like the Vibra Dream Plus and the sovereign nation of Las Vegas. Thorny issues indeed, Curtis. What can I say? I'm not a plumber, have not even taken any courses. I really did send electronic mail messages to people I thought were experts. It's true. Turns out, not that many of them wrote me back. Maybe they didn't think the question was serious, which of course it was, which of course it wasn't. It was both real and fake, authentic and ironic. But much to my delight and gratitude, a few of these smiling biologists did write me back via electronic mail, and here is how they responded. A zoologist at the University of Florida says, "Hi, why are you asking me? There is no clear-cut answer to this question. It would depend on the species of shark, the species of bear, and numerous other factors." A professor in the Evolution and Ecology department at the University of California, Davis says, I'd have to go with the shark because if the water is deep enough for the shark to be able to breathe, let alone swim, the bear would probably be in too deep to be able to defend itself. Note that although some bears do a fair bit of swimming, ergo polar, e.g. polar bears, when swimming, their paws and jaws are not in a position that would allow them to be used as offensive or defensive weapons when they are engaged in this activity. A biologist at Weber State University in Ogden, Utah says, Chris, I feel honored that I've been solicited, albeit at random. I guess the answer really depends on the species of bear and shark. I will assume you mean the biggest, meanest shark. I have to think that even a polar bear wouldn't stand much of a chance against a big shark. The shark, such as a great white, would have the advantage of speed and size, not to mention bite radius. Now, don't get me wrong, polar bears are no slouches either, but given your level playing field, I would have to put my money on a shark. But remember, it depends on the species. A scientist at the Bell Museum of Natural History on the campus of the University of Minnesota says, This sounds like some novel. In fact, most sharks are marine mammals, whereas most bears are terrestrial animals. Thus, such an encounter is most unlikely. But assuming a large shark species, there are many species that would be small enough for the bear to batter around with little risk, was involved in this fight, I think the salt of the marine environment would get in the bear's eyes. The bear would be out of its element in the water, and thus it would be no real match for the shark. A PhD at a bear-related website says, Chris, fun to think about. If a big bear could get its feet on the bottom and turn and bite, I would think it could do some damage and escape after being bitten. All hypothetical, of course. P.S. I did hear of a black bear that swam 6 miles out into the Gulf of Mexico from Florida and then swam back. The boat followed the bear halfway back before leaving. So, on paper at least, it looks like no contest. 3 out of 5, 60%, experts say that a shark would win easily. 60% is a landslide in presidential elections. But listen, as the cliche goes, great sporting events are not played on paper, they're played out on real fake grass in domed stadiums. On paper, did North Carolina State have a chance against mighty Houston? On paper, did the U.S. Olympic hockey team have a chance against the Russians or whomever they beat for the gold that one time when I was a kid? On paper, did Joe Namath's Jets stand a chance in that Super Bowl? On paper, did Taft have a prayer against Van Buren? You just never know. Head-lugged Cinderella could crash this party, her paws crammed into slippers, her pearly teeth dripping with gore. Chapter 89. Inside. Inside America is Las Vegas, and inside Las Vegas is the Roman Coliseum Hotel, and inside the Roman Coliseum Hotel is room 2122, and inside room 2122 is a double bed, and inside the double bed is a man and a woman. Wait, who threw a blanket over the televisions? It's so dark. Quiet, too, with the complimentary gladiator earplugs. Just the faintest hum of violence and fun out there. The faintest pulse. And vague shadow puppets loving or killing on the curtains. It's hard to tell. So quiet and dark under the covers when the man rolls inside the woman. Both of them not quite awake, that part of the night when this can happen. She says, Yes, like that. She whispers it. He can't hear her. He says, Sometimes I catch a glimpse. She says, I'm still alive. Their wet faces are smashed together, eyes open in the total dark. They are speaking, unheard, simultaneously, through clenched teeth. He says, Like that? She says, This could have been my story. Which is true. He says, I don't even make the fake stuff. I just design it.
She says, I saw you each time I was pregnant. He says, Do you know what I mean? She says, I saw how you'd wait for me to sleep, then you'd crawl under the covers with that tiny flashlight and look at my belly for hours. He says, Move this way a little. She says, I only pretended to be asleep. I knew what you were doing. For hours, looking at my round belly, barely touching it with your fingers and lips. It's all like a dream, but it's not. The Vibra-Dream Plus and the Unpillow are nowhere to be seen. She says, The radio talk show host told me it was creepy and I should ask for a divorce. He says, Divorce? She says, But it was sweet and I loved you for it. There are 7 cervical vertebrae, 12 thoracic vertebrae, 5 lumbar vertebrae, 5 sacral vertebrae, and 4 caudal or coccygeal vertebrae. The man and the woman roll like experts. He says, Curtis is going to be okay. She says, It's not too late. The man bites the woman's ear, sucks out the complimentary earplug. He says, Like that? She says, Yes, Larry, yes. Chapter 90. Wait and See Attitude. 9 hours until Bear v. Shark 2. Can you feel the tension? Would you say there is an electricity in the air? Would you say it's crackling? In the morning, the patient opens his eyes, which is a good sign. He goes to the bathroom. He is up and moving around. This is good. He is not talking. He has made some noises, but not really any words. He dribbles juice substitute on himself. His balance is a little off. He has a big knot on the back of his skull. An egg on the old noggin. Corny bacteria causes a swollen head. Mrs. Norman says, Curtis, are you okay? Mr. Norman says, Kurt fell out of bed last night. I got up and put him back. This is a lie, but... Matthew says, Oh, I remember him coming back to bed. It's strange how a lie can so easily and quickly find verification. Mr. Norman says, He'll be okay. Mrs. Norman says, Maybe we should take him to a doctor. Real fake chariots race around the hotel lobby where the Normans enjoy their continental breakfast. Stoic members of the housekeeping staff exit the elevator, their togas swooshing. Mr. Norman is scared of doctors, isn't everyone? Those machines. You turn them on and they say something, cancer or a stroke, and then you have cancer or a stroke and you start to feel terrible. The machines speak and the doctors just translate and there is no arguing. It's the final word and you might die. Mr. Norman is adopting a wait-and-see attitude on this one. Matthew says, Kurt, can I have your cream-filled donut if you're not going to eat it? Curtis says, well, nothing. Chapter 91. Train of Thought.
Know that paper I wrote on Bear v. Shark?
The one that got you off the internet?
Yeah,
The one about how the bear is the ego and the shark is the id?
yeah.
Freud.
I got a D.
Jesus, that was the best paper out of all of them.
Teacher said he couldn't follow my train of thought.
What's a train of thought?
My train of thought, that's what he said.
A train of thought.
Yeah, he couldn't follow it.
And he wanted to?
Follow it?
Yeah.
I guess so.
He wanted to follow your so-called train of thought, but he couldn't.
Hold on, I got another call.
A train of thought, it would seem, is a positive thing. One wants to have a train of thought so that others can follow it. A train made entirely of thought. A thought train with teachers in tow.
I'm back. You there?
What is porridge, anyway?
What's a train got to do with it?
A train is an outmoded form of transportation.
That's what I'm saying.
It's slow and smoky.
Heavy, loud.
Well, if slow and smoky thoughts are good, then I'm a damn idiot severe.
It's true.
Damn boy genius if smoky thinking's got the yardstick. Oh, if smoky thinking is the yardstick, sorry.
What we're talking about here is number one, why would I want a train of thought? Number two, why would he want to follow it? And number three,
Number three is why would you want a damn train of thought in the first place when there's all kinds of thought vehicles out there that are faster and more efficient and constructed especially for the modern reader?
today's hectic world.
Who the hell wants to sit still at a thought crossing and just watch those linked ideas roll by?
Hold on, I got another call.
Chapter 92 The Museum of Las Vegas Secession. It's on to the Museum of Las Vegas Secession. Remember that huge and impressively amusing educational complex? But it's hard for the Normans to get very excited about the museum, what with the event looming in the near future. It seems that the thousands of other people at the museum feel the same way. People are nervous, on edge. Everyone is just wandering around, killing time, waiting. Who would win in a fight between a bear and a shark? I mean, think about it. If a bear with a normal-sized head and a shark had a conflict that they could not settle peaceably, who would win? I'd eat broken glass for a ticket, I would. The virtual water park is fun because you don't get wet for real. The original gambling monkey is pretty amazing. He plays blackjack and poker mostly. But here's what they never tell you in the ads. The monkey is a terrible gambler. He almost always loses. It's like he doesn't even understand the rules or the purpose. The world's largest billboard is immense, to be sure, but a bit of a letdown. It's not as big as it looks on the internet. Pictures can lie. Mr. Norman holds Curtis's hand as the family walks around the museum, which is a nice thing that he hasn't done in a long time. Curtis walks slowly and a bit unsteadily, staring straight ahead. He seems to be getting much better. He eats cotton candy and rubs some of it in his hair. Not once at the museum does he run off or get lost or get shot. There is a petting zoo with a toothless, sedated bear with glassy eyes and tangled fur. It lies on its side, taking shallow breaths while the children poke it. There is also a shark, apparently, but it won't come out from behind a plastic rock. Mr. Norman leans down to Curtis and says, "You ready for tonight, little man?" Docents in animal masks make children run and cry. He, Mr. Norman, says,
Do you think the shark will get what's coming to him?
Curtis doesn't say anything. Matthew says,
No way, Dad.
a sign says,
The brave men and women who settled this country came here seeking a better way of life.
a sign says,
Coming tomorrow, Bear v. Shark 2, a historical perspective.
a man on a payphone says,
You fucking promised me you'd have the detonator.
Matthew says,
Sucks you have to wait for history.
Chapter 93 Oral Vacuum. There is a shark out there in the ocean called a cookie cutter shark. Isistius brasiliensis. Even though it is pretty clearly an internet hoax, I'm going to assume that it's real, as I assume American astronauts landed on the moon, as I assume Greenland exists, as I assume the biological experts in Chapter 88 really have their PhDs. Call me gullible. I've seen internet pictures of the cookie cutter shark. This is not a pretty animal. Creepy eyes and a god-awful mouth. But still, it doesn't look like some terror of the deep. Not the great white, the so-called man-eater, not 50 feet long like the whale shark. It's cigar-shaped, eel-like, about 50 centimeters in length, max. As any decent dashboard will tell you, that's about 20 inches long. And cookie cutter shark is such a harmless name, a fun name even. Who doesn't like cookies? My friends and I love them, except here's the thing. Do you know why it's called that? What this shark does is attach itself to some much larger creature, sometimes another shark, with its thick, suctorial lips and long, sharp teeth, and then it spins hard in order to rip out a cookie-shaped plug of flesh from the larger animal. This plug is sometimes referred to as a flesh cookie. Cookie cutter sharks have very strong basihyals, see above, and mighty rectus cervicis throats, and mighty rectus cervicis throat muscles in order to create a powerful oral vacuum. A recent theory suggests that the cookie cutter shark's markings trick other, larger fish into thinking it is a very small fish. When the larger fish attacks this very small fish, the cookie cutter turns and lunges at the lunger, using the larger fish's forward motion to help rip out the plug of flesh, the cookie. I might add that at one site there is talk of cookie cutter sharks cratering the study sonar domes of nuclear submarines. So, say you're a big fish. This seemingly harmless creature with a fun name lies to you, assaults you with a powerful oral vacuum, and then makes a hole in you forever. Damn right it's a metaphor. uh, yeah, yeah, damn right it's a metaphor. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Chris Bachelder. We appreciate it. Let's just reread that again for giggle's sake. So, say you're a big fish. This seemingly harmless creature with a fun name lies to you, assaults you with a powerful oral vacuum, and then makes a hole in you forever. Damn right it's a metaphor. Chapter 94 Big Afternoon. Tell about the big afternoon leading up to the big event. 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. Slow down. Use some striking images, some poignant details. What's the weather like? Sunny. Hot. Hot as... I don't know. What else? What's to say? I'd skip it if you let me. I won't let you. I know. Tell it. I don't know. A nap. Yes, a family nap. Boy, they sure are tired, those Normans. Come on. It's true. It's really true now that I think about it. Boring. So, boring is bad. Not all of life can be so entertaining. What about art? What about novels? Depends. Tell about Curtis. He's asleep like the others. Something's wrong with him. There's a problem here. There's a crisis, a conflict. We're adopting a wait-and-see attitude. What's going to happen to him? I, like sharks and most other fishes, cannot see the future. They're all asleep. Yes. Well, Mr. Norman isn't asleep. He can't sleep. He keeps looking over to see if Curtis is still breathing. And, is he? Breathing? Yes. Yes. Boring. But outside, on the streets of Las Vegas, it's like a big party or something, right? People tailgating and drinking and celebrating and getting ready. A festive, jubilant atmosphere. Some fights breaking out between bear and shark factions. Right? But see, that's the thing. It's not a party. Nobody is out on the street. Almost nobody. It's hot and bright and empty out there. Kind of creepy. People are lying low, staying quiet. It's never like this in Las Vegas, but today it is. It just doesn't look right. You need people to make this place look right. Without people, it looks deserted? Worse than deserted. Egregious. At BVS, the theme park, there are no lines. It's never been easier to ride those upside-down rides. There are 3 people on the Mama's Den and maybe 3 more on the unlevel playing field. They're all screaming with their hands in the air like you're supposed to, but you can tell their hearts aren't in it. One might say that a pall has descended. Hey, you've got your religion, and I've got mine. Of course. Family nap and empty streets. That's what I'm saying, yes. No wonder nobody reads anymore. So what should I do the rest of the day? I don't know, flip through a celebrity magazine or watch a sporting event. I can't. I'm too antsy and restless about tonight. Oh well. Hey, would you care for a flesh cookie? No, thanks. Didn't someone die one time on the Mama's Den? You're thinking of Goldilocks' nightmare. The guy was too tall and his head just... Say, who would win in a fight between a bear and a shark? Stay tuned, I reckon. Oh, that's right. He's got an index chapter for no reason because he's a monster and an animal and a barbarian. We're not there yet. We're almost there. Chapter 95, The War of Nature. A free, crowded, and eerily quiet shuttle ride down to the Darwin Dome. These are common folk on the shuttle, the lottery winners. Their T-shirts are loud and brash, but their faces are blank, even grim. Grim, with 1 hour remaining before Bear v. Shark 2, The War of Nature. What gives? Mr. Norman wonders if his face is grim. And if his face is grim, does that mean he's feeling grim, too? He intentionally makes a grim face, and then thinks about how much work it took. If it was relatively easy to make a grim face from his regular ground state face, then maybe his face was already pretty far on toward grim, and thus maybe he is feeling grim. If his face had to go a long way to make a grim face, then maybe he is the opposite of grim, happy or something. Step 1. Make a grim face. Step 2. Measure the difference between regular face and grim face. Step 3. Determine your emotional state. Mrs. Norman says, "Honey, what are you doing?" This isn't easy, and it really isn't as scientific as it seems. There's room for human error here. Subjectivity creeps back in. Curtis sits in his father's lap. Under each of his eyes is a shiny blue crescent of bruise. Blue and shiny, like an insect's wings. Back at the hotel, Matthew swore he heard Curtis say something, some words, not English words really, but an utterance of some type. The child is coming around. If you are faced with a bear in a threatening situation, remain calm and still. Sometimes playing dead works. The last thing you want to do is run away. Bears are fast. A T-shirt says, "Real men have coarse, thick fur." Another T-shirt says, "Hibernation is for pussies." Grim faces. Darwin, the 19th century scientist, says in the penultimate sentence of his On the Origin of Species, "Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death, the most exalted object which we are capable of conceiving, namely, the production of the higher animals, directly follows." Civic leaders and captains of industry say, "I don't much care for Darwin on origins, but I like what he has to say about competition." And there it is, folks, the Darwin Dome, brilliant in the August sun, a cathedral and a crucible. The shuttle driver, an anarchist with some vague cult ties, says, "Well, here we are." Mrs. Norman says, "Isn't that something?" From his father's lap, Curtis stares out the bulletproof shuttle windows at the deserted arena. The dictionary says dome means house of God. Okay, so we come upon chapter 96, which is Bear v. Shark, the Index. Now, I'm going to take a quick swig of water while you all, whoever's tuning in, decide whether or not you want me to read this out, because it is a true index. It is the real thing. In fact, it has references to things that I think are after this. This is before the end of the book. This is not the end of the book yet. Yes, he's a lunatic. It's okay. We're dealing with it. We're screaming, we're crying, we're dealing with it. So I'm going to let whoever's here decide whether it's going to be read or not. Say something in chat. If you don't, well, we're reading it. And it is a solid 6 pages, 5 pages, 5 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish pages of index material. So, brace. Gonna give it another 30 seconds or so. Read it. All right. So it shall be. The ayes have it. Chapter 96, Bear v. Shark, the Index. And I want to make something abundantly clear. This is accurate. I have not double-checked every single one of them, but it is every single one I checked was legit. So he took the honest-to-God time to burn 5 pages and Christ knows how many words of text, characters of text, on an index before the end of the book. Abortion, page 60. Adams, Grizzly, page 21. Agassi, Andre, page 242. We're on page 235 right now. American Ear, Broad Flapping, page 112. American Vacation, pages 161, 166, 167 to 168, 171, and 174. Announcement, Public Service, 66. Anti-chafe flap, patented, page 123. Aristotle, page 164. Ark, Noah's, page 137. Asians, 127. Page 127. AstroTurf, page 184 and 207. Atlanta, page 24. Carolina, 14. Oh, actually, that's arranged. That's arranged like a score. Oh, you jerk. It's Atlanta 24 and not a line break, and then it says Carolina 14. Oh, I'm telling you, you gotta get a lot of this is going to be lost. A lot of this gets lost if you're not reading, if you don't have the document in front of you, I regret to say. Atmosphere. Festive and Jubilant, pages 189 and 231. Foreboding, page 170. And Grim, page 233 to 234. Author's Apartment, page 116. Babble Blocker, pages 23 and 24. Baby, Lost, page 79, 81, 82, and 83. Back to You, Brock, page 152. Backacre, Chris, page 171. Bad Children, Chris, 173. Band Leader, Chris, 166. Barthel, Donald, 116. Barths, Roland, 120. Now we have a long section of bears. Bear Killer, 73, 74, and 113. Cabaret, page 144. Churlish, page 130. Bear Fur, pages 79, 107, 141, 227, and 248. Bear Head, large, 248 to 49. Bear Head Lugged, 130 and 219. Bear Head Small, 78. Bear Hibernation, 83, 134, 135, 186, and 234. Bear Invisible, 72. Bear Meat, 242. Milk, 245. Paws, 125, 218, and 219. Pipin' Swords, 113. Porn, 116 and 117. Bear running downhill, 168. Sark, 62. Slippers, 219. And now we have bears continued. Speed, bears speed, 219. Bears swimming, page 218. Bears syrup, love of, page 125. Bears teeth, pages 94, 219, and 249. Bear verbs on page 131, if we remember that one. Oh, here we go. Bear v. Shark. Bear v. Shark 1 is referenced on pages 53, 78, 93 to 94, 157, 166, 191, 205, and 249. Bear v. Shark 2, pages 17, 43, 70, 75, 105, 127, 129, 150, 181, 188, 199, 191, 201, 210, 222, 227, and 233. Bear v. Shark 3, pages 246 to 247. We are on page 236 right now. Dare I say there are spoilers afoot? Bear v. Shark action figures. Page 99 and 146. Bear v. Shark Blues number 3, page 212. Bear v. Shark Breakfast Cereal, pages 42 to 43. Classic Game of Strategy and Entertainment, page 99. Cone, 196. Essay, page 77. Bear v. Shark, How to Talk to Your Children About Bear v. Shark, page 146. Index, page 235. Insider Story, 93 to 94. License plates, personalized, page 100. Logo, 26 and 191. Novel, page 155. On Ice, Bear v. Shark on Ice, page 57. Origins, 53 to 54. Parties, 251. Preface, page 11. Question, page 32. Quiz, page 134 to 135. Rising Action, page 151 to 53. Tale of the Tape, page 28. Talk Radio, pages 60, 61 to 63. Theme Park, page 231. T-shirt, and the Bear v. Shark t-shirt on page 78. Bees, Killer, page 77. Birds, Fake, pages 19, 26, 33. Bivouac, Scenic, pages 48 to 49 and page 176. Black Letter, Chris, page 161. Boards, Bill, Billboards, on pages 44, 67, 81, 82, 86, 104, and 148. See also Jesus. And Dashboard, on pages 56, 95, 96, 106, 173, and 228. Bombs, page 184, 205 to 206, page 211, and page 250. Boot, Cowboy, page 169. Boy, Crippled, 184 to 185. And Drowning, 133. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Let me get that. Or not.
Okay.
Drowning Boy, Boy Drowning on page 133. Breakfast, Analytic Breakfast, page 133. Continental Breakfast, page 133 and 222. And Breakfast on a Stick on page 173. Brother-in-Law, My, page 165 and 218. And here we do the fake score thing again. Buffalo 17, Baltimore 14. So the score ones I don't think are legit. Let me check to see if Buffalo is on page 17. I will giggle. I don't think I checked any of those when I read through this the first time. 17. Let's see. Okay, so the score ones are the fakes. That's it. So we have Buffalo 17, Baltimore 14. Now we have But Perfect on page 11, which, because we need to double check and make sure he's not totally joshing us. Why, yes, Perfect But is mentioned. By Dale on page 63. Now we finally hit the C's. Just several more pages of this. Cake Chocolate, pages 20 to 21 and 23 to 24. Calvino Italo on page 116. Carrots Wavy on 162. Chinchilla on page 119. Chlorine 122. Cleveland 17. New Orleans 10. Cockfights on pages 66 and 98. Comedy Situational on page 66 and 192. Context Pseudo on page 92. Cookies Flesh on 228 and Ginger on 148. Costumes Furry 141. Cricket Dead 122. Cults pages 192 to 193, 199, 205 to 7, and 234. Curtis's Knees 152 to 53 and 156. Darwin, Charles, on pages 33, 43, 54, 234, and 242. Darwin Dome, pages 44, 70 to 71, 145, 153, 80, 181, 182, 193, 197, 199, 206, 207, 212, 233, 234, 241, 242, 249, and 250. Debate, 10-second, on pages 59 to 60. Delay, 7-second, 136. Democracy, 60 and 165. Denver 34, Minnesota 31. Depression, 171 to 205, 171 and 205. Desire, refracted, 122. Despot, beneficent, see boards dash. Dew point, see weather. Disaster, passenger train, page 55. Disciples, the, 137 and 138. Disease, cancer, 121, 144 to 45, 223. Dutch elm disease, 64. Freshwater disease, 192 to 193. Gum disease, 75. Dog, last folk singers, 47, and Wiener, 124. Dorfman, Ariel, 108. Dutch, comma space, the, 38, 64 to 65, 77, 88, and 97. Earplugs, complimentary, page 220. Edison, Thomas, pages 82 and 83. Electronic equipment, fake, 25 to 26. Entertainers, homeless, 201 and 210. Entertainment exhaust, 148 to 150. Experts, 23, 54, 217 to 219, 221, 228. Eyes, funny, 74. Eyes, weird, 108 and 183. Face, grim, 233 to 34. Feelings, palpable, 100 to 102. Fisherman, well read, 75. Florentine, banana, 65. Folk singer, last, 47, 57, 212. Food marts, pages 106 and 148. Footage, interesting, 34. Stock, 38 and 124. Fork, 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 page 111. French and Indian War, page 115. Let me double check to see if fork is real, because who knows? Maybe he's lying to us. Maybe he's just a devil in disguise. Oh, that is what he is, isn't it? No, it does have fork. Actually, it doesn't say fork 3 times in a row. It probably is supposed to say. Anyway, he lied to us a little. It's okay. French and Indian War, page 115. Freud, Sigmund, page 131. Frost, Robert, 106. Frozen dinner rolls, Instabake, see Curtis's knees. Gambling Monkey, World's Original, page 45 and 226. Gardener, see Dutch, space the. Gas, Inert, pages 198, 201, and 211. Gaskin, 109 and 110. Ghost, 161, 173. Gills, Bleeding, 194 and 201. Goldilocks Nightmare, 232. Grace, Shredded, 104. Green Bay 27, Seattle 20. Green Paint, 121 and 176. Guarantee, 4 Minute, page 28. Guard, National, page 171. Guy, from Other Booth, pages 81 to 83. Guy, from Pump 22, pages 107 to 108. Hair, Unwanted, page 20. Hand, Invisible, page 171. Hand of the Diligent, page 241 to 242. Hard Corp, page 54, 70, 78, 93, 97, 172, 173, 242, and 248. Hart, Owen, page 155. Hash, Canned, page 152. Hernia Soda, pages 59, 127 to 28, and 178. Hoax, see Internet. Hobos, page 56 and 81. Hockey Team, U.S. Olympic, page 219. Hogshead, 96. Hollis, Reverend, page 137 to 139. Holmes, Oliver Wendell, page 84. Sherlock, page 84. Hookers, page 201. Hooskow, see Prison. Horse, Pommel, 109. Human Spirit, Triumph of, 210. Huxley, Aldous, page 54 and 101. Ich, page 188, 194, and 195. Indianapolis, 14, Dallas, 13. Internet, pages, drumroll please, 17, 24, 34, 39, 48, 72 to 75, 78, 81, 99, 111, 113, 115, 118, 119, 144, 146, 165 to 167, 176, 188, 199, 210, 217 to 18, 224, 226, 228, and 249. Irony, pages 12, 116, and 149. Jacksonville 40, Cincinnati 17. Jesus, on a billboard 82. On the Darwin Dome 242. Join, page 111, which absolutely is there. Jokes 72, 116. Judge, TV commercial, page 20. Jump, Curtis, page 207. Kansas City 13, San Diego 9. King, Martin Luther, page 242. Knitting, Electronic, pages 67 to 68. Knock, 72. Knot, Accordion Knot, 113 and 250. Gordian Knot, 94. Gordon Knot, 113. Granny Knot, 114. Guardian Knot, 113 and 174. Cone, pages 54 and 218.
Las Vegas. Las Vegas, Nevada.
Page 33, 38, 44, 45, 47, 54, 59, 69, 70, 97, 157, 169, 183, 184, 190, 199 to 200, 226 to 227. Lawn, chipped and faded, page 251. Lawyer, lady, page 20 to 21 and 23. License plates, personalized, page 100. Lindbergh, Charles, page 1885 and 189. Link, breakfast, page 104. Linoleum, page 12. Lloyd, page 45 to 46. Lloyd's mother, page 45 to 46 and page 251. Look past the violence, Jack, page 215. Love, flood of, page 30. Marble, Lucky, page 46. Meredith, Dr. Sarah, pages 61 to 63. Miami, 30. Chicago, 13. Microcoils, interlocked, page 30. Mindy's ex-boyfriend, Nate, page 53. Mockery, page 116. Moody, Rick, 163. Moore, Lori, 163. Moralism, 116. Motorists, Drunk, pages 210 to 11 and page 215. Mouse, Dead on pages 43, 51, and 192, and Foolhardy, page 42. Munson, Reverend Marty, pages 41 to 40 to 41. Museum of Las Vegas Secession, The, page 45 and 226 to 227. Namath, Joe, page 219. Nausea, 104 and 114. Neon, 197. Netnook, 34 and 38. New England, 24. Arizona, 23. New York Giants, 9. Philadelphia, 7. That's an improbable score. The Giants beat Philly? Bosh. Pish posh, I say. 9 yards, The Hole, page 108. Noggin, Bump on the, page 210, 216, and 222. Oriole Bolus, page 125. Outing, Father-Son, on page 198. Pains, Fruitless, page 104. Pants, Sexy, page 140 and 151. Parlor, page 15 and 35. Personality, Television, 26, 40, 101, and 120. Petty, Richard, 62. Pillow, Cordless Vibrating, 16 to 17, 51, and 198. And Unpillow, 31 and 221. Planet Peanut Brittle, pages 67 to 68. Plumbers, 217 to 218. Police, 81, 90, 211, and 241. Polls, recent, 97 to 98 and 101. Porridge, page 35 and 225. Postman, Neil, 59, 92, 183, and 249. Posture, on pages 31, 33, 51, 56, 58, 98, 108, 163, 192, and 250. Princess Adelaide, page 112. Prison, Cabbage, 183. Prison, Las Vegas, 183, 199. Prison, Sex, page 50 and 122. Pinchon, Thomas, 163 and 167. Also, I think some of these are referenced outside of those numbers, but maybe not as Thomas Pynchon or Martin Luther King. I know MLK is brought up on another page. Racehorse 109, Razor, Occam's 173, Rhetoric 161 to 65 and 217. Richards IA on 164, Round-Eyed Sons of the Knightly Order on page 133. Sandwich, Dick, page 52. Satire 116. Saunders, George 163. Scrotum, underneath the 156. Sequitur, non 120. Sex, see prison. Shakespeare, pages 129 to 31 and page 249. Sharks, and this is a lengthy list. Shark's belly 124, shark's bite radius 219, shark's cookie cutter sharks 228 to 229, dogfish 211, erogenous zone 86, fins 53, 61 to 63, 77, 86, and 195. Hat 57. Maw and Gulf 130. Neck 133. Pajamas 34. Ravined, 130 and 191. Skin, 86. Sleep, 81 to 83. Swimming backward, 166. And Shark's Teeth, 29. On pages 29, 53, 62, 72, 72, 75, 86, 94, 211, 228, and 249. Shark's Tongue, on page 28, 134, 203, and pages 208 to 9. Shower Cap, 197, 202. Shut Up, Helen, page 60. Silence, Moment of, page 248. Siskind, Murray J., page 215. Snacks, Cheese, 104. Meat, 70, 71, and 97. Spartacus, page 167. Sport Utility Vehicle, on pages 38, 44, 50, 51, 52, 56, 89, 90, 95, 106, 107, 108, 164, 168, 171, 173, 175, 176, 184. Squirrel Eater, page 165. Sterno, 172. St. Louis 28, Tennessee 20. Taft, William Howard, pages 93 to 94, pages 101 to 102, page 219. Tampa Bay 20, Detroit 17. Teletown, pages 48 to 49, 145, 148 to 50, 151, 152, 173, 174 to 176, 189, 216, and 250. Television, commercials, 20, 109, 157, 172, 210, and 244. ESP TV, 58 and 108. Old, 222, 35, 58, 156. Outrageous Accomplishments Network, page 25. Television continued. Payview, 97, 185, 248, and 251. Prison Network, 50. Pundit Network, 27. On Staircase, Television on Staircase, 34, 37, and 38. See also Weather. Television Room, small, is referenced on pages 24 and 64, and large television room on page 17. Thigpen, Elton, page 54. Thoreau, Henry David, page 73, 74, and 166. Toga, 167, 188, and 222. Tongue, swollen, pages 68 to 69. Topiary, artichoke, 162. Truth, bloody meat of, page 83. Unrest, civil, page 166. Van Buren, Martin, pages 93 to 94, 101 to 102, 112, and 219. Vertebrae, see posture. Village, French, 75, and Village Global, 60. Virtual Water Park, World's Funnest, on pages 44 and 226. Visit Conjugal, on page 50. Wallace, David Foster, on page 43, 149, and 163. Wall of China, Great, on page 33. War of the Worlds, The, on page 154. Washington 34, Los Angeles 24. Waterfall, 157. Weapons, Battle Axe, 44. Gun Derringer, 44. Gun Lightning, 81. Gun Turquoise, 151 to 52. Halberd, 74. Harpoon, 44. Ice Pick, 45. Machete, 43. Pocket Knife Contraband, 183. Scythe, 43. See also Bombs. Weather. Bear Index on page 38. Clouds Cumulative, page 44, dew point on pages 37 to 38, extreme weather on pages 34, 37, and 57, fish clouds bloated on page 34, hot as ellipsis I don't know, page 230, sun chemical 119, tsunami survival, page 37, Weather Europe, pages 33 to 34 and 39, Weather Network, 34, Weather Network Plus, 34. Wells, Orson, page 154. Wells, H.G., page 154. Wittgenstein, pages 84 to 85. World, Arid, on 87 to 88. Dog Eat Dog on 181. Hectic on 28, 40, 42, 20, 67, 107, 170, 225, and 245. Natural World, 147, 249. And World, Space Violent on page 147. Wrestling, Professional, page 155. Yes, ma'am. Page 24, 137, 241, and 250. Zen, Space Extreme, page 26. Zoo, Space Petting, on page 227. Oh, thank God that's over with. Sorry, I know y'all asked for it, but I should have probably been like, he throws in a joke about sport team scores. And that's kind of the light of the height of the funny there. Other than, why would you do this? All right. Now to the thrilling climax. Chapter 97. The Hand of the Diligent. 41 minutes. If a bear and a shark. There are picketers and protesters outside the dome. They have their chants and their signs. They've been watching too much American television. Some people throw rocks at them. The unrestful inciting unrest. One picketer's sign says, "Let a man meet a she-bear robbed of her cubs, rather than a fool in his folly." Proverbs 17:12. Another picketer's sign says, "Like a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a poor people." Proverbs 28:15. Another picketer's sign says, "Woe to you who desire the day of the Lord! It is darkness and not light, as if a man fled from a lion and a bear met him." Amos 5:19. The Bible is pretty quiet when it comes to sharks. Las Vegas police members round up these zealots and scofflaws in a big truck and take them somewhere. What do you think this is? America? Some punk in a chocolate cake costume climbs to the top of the dome with a dog and a guitar. A crowd gathers outside the dome to watch and listen and videotape. Nobody knows what the cake is singing about. Not once does he say, "Yes, ma'am," and people start to boo. Even the protesters in the police truck are booing the cake. The cake sings 2.5 folk songs before LV's finest catch him, cuff him, and smash his guitar in the bright, glinting light. The crowd cheers, then disappears into the dark arena. The Darwin Dome has four main entrances. On the north side, fans enter under an enormous arch made by statues of Charles Darwin and Jesus holding hands. On the east, fans enter under an enormous arch made by statues of Charles Darwin and Andre Agassi holding hands. On the south side, fans enter an enormous arch made by statues of Charles Darwin and Martin Luther King Jr. holding hands. On the west, fans enter under an enormous arch made by statues of Charles Darwin and Hardcorp CEO William T. Ducky Riggins III holding hands. The Normans enter on the north side. Mrs. Norman holds Matthew's hand. Mr. Norman holds Curtis's hand. Darwin holds Jesus' hand. A plaque underneath the Darwin statue says, "But as all groups cannot thus succeed in increasing in size, for the world would not hold them, the more dominant groups beat the less dominant." A plaque underneath the Jesus statue says, "A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes it rich." Makes rich. Sorry, there is no it there. There's no reason these guys couldn't get along. The Normans climb switchback ramps. They're high up with the Seonlee winners. Scholastic success can get you in the door, but it takes a little something more to get a ringside seat or a luxury box. Mrs. Norman says, "Larry, if he's not feeling better by tomorrow, I think we'd better take him somewhere." The Normans, well, Matthew and the parents anyway, keep seeing people that look vaguely famous. You want to smile and wave at these people because you think you know them. You do know them, in fact, you love them, and they are a big part of your life. But here's the thing. They don't know you. Things are for sale. Plenty of things. Beer and shark meat and bear meat and popcorn and t-shirts and baseball caps and keychains and styrofoam #1 hands and mixed drinks and commemorative pins and belt buckles and stuffed animals and other souvenirs, memorabilia, knickknacks, bric-a-brac, trinkets, gewgaws, cheap plastic shit made in Taiwan. Where is Taiwan exactly? You just know there's something called the Beer and Bear Special, and something else called the Great White Wiener, and something else called Barbecue. And of course, there are gambling stations. The Bear is a slight favorite. The revenge factor. People are speaking in hushed voices. The whole thing has a feel that is different from the feel that they expected the whole thing to have. Mrs. Norman says, "What?" Matthew clings tight to his mother's hand. He says, "This place is so big." Mr. Norman says, "You doing okay, Kurt?" Curtis stays pretty quiet. A sportscaster says, "I had a chance to take a peek at the bear and the shark earlier today, Rich, and let me tell you, I wouldn't want to run across either of them in a dark alley." The clock says 23 minutes. Mrs. Norman says, "We better find our seats." It's a sad cake and a dog in that police truck. Chapter 98. Bear Milk. A commercial. Pays the bills, builds suspense. Telephone rings. Cute young mother, tastefully breastfeeding her infant in a warmly lit and tasteful television room, answers. She, cute young mother, says, "Hello?" Older sister, also cute, more rugged, tomboyish, roughing it in some exotic locale, unmarried, worldly, not ready to settle down, don't fence her in. We are to understand from foliage and bird noises and no-nonsense ponytail and khaki vest with numerous pockets that she is working in a foreign country, some sort of nature job, would love to be home to see her sister and new baby, but can't. She's got career responsibilities. You think monkeys, but there are none in sight. The phone line is clear. This could be a phone company commercial, bringing people together, but it is not. She, older sister, says, "How's my kid's sister?" CYM says, "Oh, Molly, I wish you could be here." Molly says,
Me too, sis. I'll be there soon. How's my brand new niece? Sis says, she's beautiful and wonderful. I just sat down to feed her when you called. There is a small pause here. Molly, concerned, says, Sis, you're not breastfeeding, are you? Sis, just a trace of worry in her voice, says, Yes, Molly, I am. Why? Molly says, I just thought you would be using bear milk, that's all. Sis, chuckling but still a bit nervous, this is a baby we're talking about here, completely helpless. Everyone wants to do the right thing for the baby. It needs you to make sound developmental decisions. Sis says, But Molly, human babies have always been raised with human milk. Molly, amidst exotic animal noises, says, Sis, in today's hectic competitive world, human milk just doesn't cut it. Human milk is fine for average children, but truly exceptional children like my niece need more. Cut now to a laboratory with busy white-coated actors bustling in the background. There are test tubes that clearly show. There is a bar graph that clearly shows. There is a daytime drama star in a white coat who clearly shows. Turns out bear milk is 46% fat, while human milk is a paltry 4% fat. Turns out that bear cubs, relatively speaking, are the smallest of mammals when born, only 1/420th the weight of their mother. Human babies, in comparison, are 1/20th the weight of their mother. So how do bear cubs grow up so fast to be so strong and fast and mean? That's right, bear milk. Damn rocket fuel, that stuff. Cut back to cute young mother feeding a warm bottle of bear milk to her happy and remarkably healthy infant. The doorbell rings, and it's Molly, home from the jungle to see her niece for the first time. Her niece, who is destined to be strong and extraordinary. Don't we all want what's best for our children? Do we dare settle for less? The embrace. Oh, what an angel! And so big and exceptional looking. Big sister always knew what knew best. Laughter. What I'm getting at is everything turns out okay. Chapter 99 Bear v. Shark 3 The Third Coming.
Shit, for that kind of money, if Miami wants us, Miami's got us.
Miami wants us, sir.
We'll need a dome.
They say it's no problem.
Done deal, then.
I'll let them know, sir. We'll schedule a meeting to hammer out the details.
Maybe we can shake it up this time. You know, call it Shark v. Bear or something.
I think that would be a mistake, sir.
SVB3, the third time's the harm. What do you think?
We can discuss the finer points later, sir.
Or, I don't know, make them 3 times as big, or make it 3-on-3 or something.
Sir, change is sometimes dangerous. Our marketing research shows that people love their BVS just the way it is.
Yeah, I guess so.
We've got an excellent product, sir.
And not a bad profit either.
Quite true, sir.
Hey, wait, what if we used a real bear and a real shark and passed them off as fake? We could save a shitload of money.
We've thought about that, sir, but there is concern that a real bear and a real shark would not be real enough to be convincingly fake.
Real would be too fake?
Real would be too real, sir, which would be fake, but not in a real way.
Real is not real enough.
Exactly, sir.
You're probably right.
But I think we do need to change the time frame, sir.
Explain.
2 years is simply too long to wait. People start shooting themselves in the heads and beating up their kids. We've got to come back sooner.
Okay, we can do 18 months.
Sir, I'm thinking more like 8 months, an April bout.
That's soon.
Our research shows that 8 months is optimal. We can do tie-ins to Easter, the whole resurrection theme.
That's real soon.
Yes, sir, but I think we can swing it.
A spring fight, though. I like it.
Yes, sir.
Here's the thing.
Yes, sir.
If there's a third fight,
Yes, sir.
and the shark won the first fight,
Yes, sir.
then
Sir, I don't think the programmers are going to like that. Well, do you think the programmers like having jobs? I'll talk to them, sir.
All right. Are you ready? Chapter 100. And now, this. The Normans in their seats, high above the ring. 65,000 fans and tens of millions more worldwide on pay view. Oh man, not too long now until a bear and a shark get in a fight, and who would win if they did? The announcer says, Hardcorp asks that you take a moment of silence to pray for American troops. The vice president of Las Vegas says, Nobody told us about no moment of silence. The moment is, well, silent. Or close. Not very. One thinks of wind-kissed meadows. One thinks of bomb shelters. And then the lights go out, and the loud, extreme music comes on. The announcer says, Welcome, fight fans, to the greatest spectacle in recorded history. Then a dancing spotlight on the ring. Some crisscrossing lasers. There is clear, blue water, some small trees and brush, a sandy shore. A person would not be alarmed to see either a bear or a shark in this setting. This is a level playing field. The announcer says, In one corner, the challenger, a large mammal of the family Ursidae, found almost exclusively in the northern hemisphere, with a large head, a bulky body, short and powerful and clawed limbs, and coarse, thick fur, standing almost 9 feet tall and weighing more than 1,500 pounds, Shakespeare's darling, well-rested and looking for revenge, the bear. Stunned and terrified God, I could go for some flan. Shoot. Stunned and terrified fans clap as a gigantic bear materializes in one corner of the ring. Angry drool, realer than life, drops in strings from its truth-white teeth. The bear's head is, well, enormous. One internet site will call it slightly enlarged. Another will call it grotesque in its dimensions. Another will call it roughly proportionate to the body. Another will call it understandably and justly bloated given the debacle of Bear v. Shark 1. And so on. Decide for yourself. Mr. Norman is feeling a little queasy. He sets down his bearito. The sports announcer says, Wow, what a specimen, Rich. The ringside announcer says, In the other corner, 12 feet long, with 6 senses, multiple rows of triangular, razor-sharp teeth, a tough, cartilaginous exterior, if it stops swimming it sinks, a legendary predator, unmentioned in the Bible, absent from the night sky, ravined as all get out, the undisputed champion of BVS, the Shark. Some clapping, some booing, as the shark materializes menacingly in the opposite corner. Matthew is pale in the dark. He doesn't clap. Some people, a few people, leave their seats and head down the aisles. Of these, some are seeking a restroom, but others are leaving the dome. They can't say exactly why, but they have to get out of there. Years later, a social scientist will seek these people out for interviews, but he will find no trace of them. And then there's a bell, and the bear and the shark engage. Bear and shark, natural and sworn enemies, set upon each other with a ferocious and violent and long-standing enmity. The natural world is horrific, there's no denying it. And then the screaming. Flesh is shredded, bones shatter. The bear roars and shrieks. The shark makes some awful noise like nobody has ever heard before. Neil Postman says, Who is prepared to take arms against a sea of amusements? Mr. Norman looks to his left, where Matthew and Mrs. Norman are seated. Shark-loving Matthew, like so many others in the dome, has his face buried in his hands. He is wailing and biting his palms. A small and badly placed bomb goes off in section 234, far away from the event. Amateur work, but the blast looks awesome. Mrs. Norman appears to be passed out against the back of her seat. She is remiss in her posture. Her gum with long-lasting flavor has fallen out of her mouth and is stuck to the commemorative pin on her blouse. Her eyes are rolled back in her head. She quivers in shock. Down in the ring, it is realer than life. The blood geysers and spouts. Cartilage in ribbons. Red-gilled fish gasp for air in the lobby of the Roman Colosseum. Mr. Norman looks to his right, where his youngest son is sitting. Curtis stares at the event with bruised, watery eyes, a blank, drooling face. There are still pink wisps of cotton candy in his tousled hair. A sticky finsicle melts in his pudgy hands. Accordion knot. His T-shirt says, "I won the Bear v. Shark essay contest, and you didn't." Mr. Norman says, "Curtis?" He says, "Buddy?" The sports announcer says, "I think we all expected a good fight, but none of us, Rich, none of us expected this." Bloody and innocent and non-famous bomb victims in section 234 say, "Help." They try to say it. Curtis makes a noise with his mouth. Did he just say, "Yes, ma'am"? Mr. Norman thinks the child said, "Yes, ma'am." Was it that, or just some nonsense phrase? The bear's arm, realer than life, is torn from its bulky body. The shark looks to have been caught in a helicopter blade. The animals writhe. There is glistening meat. In Teletown they wait. They're always looking for new members in the unique, self-sustaining community. In the dark, Mr. Norman thinks he sees the corners of Curtis's mouth turn up slightly. Is the kid smiling? Is he happy and well adjusted? Is Mr. Norman the world's greatest dad, as it says on 3 Father's Day coffee mugs back home in America? Who would win in a fight between Mr. Norman and other kids' dads? Mr. Norman says, "Curtis, you in there, pal?" He says, "Please, son." In America, Bear v. Shark parties grow hushed and anxious. Guests thank hosts quietly and slip out. This isn't like the Super Bowl. In their homes, millions of Americans stare at pay-view in silence. This is what they paid for. This is what they were told to want, and this is what they wanted. In America, Lloyd's mother won't let him watch. The boy is outside alone, playing imaginary jacks on the faded lawn. Threesies, foursies, fivesies. Curtis stares on, transfixed by the spectacle. He is delighted by the advances in entertainment technology. He is blissful, serene, a happy kid from the mainland. Or else the child's brain is damaged, vegetable dead. It's hard to tell, Walt. But usually these things turn out okay. They do. And that was Bear v. Shark, the novel, by Chris Bachelder. And I think if you were paying attention, there's not a hell of a lot to say other than everything. It's a satire. It's funny. It's grim. Oh my God, is it grim? It does not, as you say, paint a particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Enamoring picture of the American entertainment culture at all. Oy, not even a slight little bit. Um, it's a fairly damning indictment. Um, it's a tremendous bummer. There's an argument to be made that US exclamation point, another book by the same author, is slightly more optimistic, but even then it's pretty grim. And it's not about the entertainment industry, although that factors in somewhat. So yeah, that was a piece of satire. I think you can derive many messages from that. It's a fun read. It's definitely harder to read aloud than I think, and it's definitely easier. It's easier to read on its own than hear aloud, I think. But it's a fun one. Anyway, if people want to talk about it in the comments, try to be civil towards each other, as always. Um, I think it's a fun one. I know the whole, oh, this kid just probably got brain damage thing kind of jumps you. Sorry about that. Um, Also, sorry about the bear porn references, which aren't my fault. I blame the author, and the author apologized too. So that's nice. So yeah, it plays games with the literary form. It breaks the fourth wall rather frequently, or at least Heidi Ho neighbors it over the top of the fourth wall. It's cute. It's pretty good. Um, Given that this was published in 2001, I think you can probably guess why this guy doesn't have massive critical renown and popularity. That was not a time when when America was particularly receptive to being satirized at all. So this is rather cutting. Um, it being aught one and all at that point in time. So yeah, hopefully people had fun. Hopefully you're not too bummed out by the possible message, as he says, and I should mark that page. Damn right, it's a metaphor. Where was that? What page was that? It's about cookie cutter sharks. Where are you, cookie cutter sharks? Ah, here we go. Chapter 93, Oral Vacuum. So say you're a big fish. This seemingly harmless creature with a fun name lies to you, assaults you with a powerful oral vacuum, and then makes a hole in you forever. Damn right it's a metaphor. So that's a keeper right there. I might even throw that to my post stream text spiel. Damn right it's a metaphor. So that's a keeper. Anyway, so yeah, good times were had by some. Not Curtis. Well, maybe. Maybe he's thoroughly enjoying himself, but now lacks the language centers to express how much he's enjoying himself. Or he's brain damaged and a vegetable. Who knows? Time will tell, Walt. Everything will turn out okay. It generally does. At any rate, that'll do it for today. I will be here this Friday. We'll be reading more of The Jesus Incident by Frank Herbert and Bill Ransom. I think it'll be the penultimate installment. Yes, it'll be the penultimate installment. Next Monday, we'll be reading more of Martin Caden's Man Fac. And next Wednesday, I don't know, maybe some Greg Egan to detox a little and read something different. Anyway, until next time, thanks again to everyone who tuned in. Stay safe, stay sane, and be decent to each other. I'll get the playlists updated sometime early next month. Probably not this weekend, but we'll see. I'm kind of busy. Anyway, I'll talk to you all later. See you all next time.